We started out with 16 players and all of the top 10 players in the world. We are left with 2 players in the final of the FTX Crypto Cup. For the third time, we're going to have a final between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. Will it be third time lucky for Magnus or another win for Wesley? It's going to be exciting. Welcome to the first day of finals in the FTX Crypto Cup. This is the 6th tournament so far in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. It is the 3rd major. The winner will qualify directly for the tour final. It's either going to be Magnus Carlsen or Wesley So, and to take us through the drama and excitement, Women's Grandmaster Houska and Grandmaster David Howell. And well, David, who's the favorite?
It's going to be a close match. That's the only thing I can guarantee. Personally, I think Magnus might still be the small favourite despite his struggles against Wesley in the past, because Magnus, he's been moving up the gears as the tournament's gone on, every round getting slightly better. And yeah, I just want to see some good chess.
Yeah, I know, I agree. But Ivanka, Magnus, losing 2 finals to Wesley, what does he have to do differently to win it this time?
Well, he has to take lessons from all his previous victories against Wesley. There, he's been a rather slippery customer. He's tricked Wesley in the opening. He's had some stunning battles there, and he has to do more of the same.
Well, Magnus, he was tied with Timur Ajabo after the first match in the semifinals. But on day 2, the world champion played some fantastic chess.
A draw is the same as a loss for Rajabov, so it's all out for the win.
Magnus has just played one of those mysterious rook moves where he's moved his rook to in front of a pawn. And it looks like that rook is not going to do anything, so he's getting ready for that battle.
The world champion made a fantastic comeback against Timur Rajabov on the last day of the FTX Crypto Cup semi-finals.
Magnus is so ruthless when it comes to these type of positions, and he has this ability is almost superhuman just to keep himself calm.
Magnus in top form, he's in the flow, he's finding these difficult moves quite quickly as well. Rajabov resigns with the black queen about to be trapped.
It's been awfully tense. Can't say that my play is like flowing great, but I mean, I'm in the finals and I think I need to play better to beat Wesley.
A marvellous performance by Wesley So against Jan Nepomniachtchi secured him a place in the finals.
Wow.
Yeah, speechless almost, because Nepomniachtchi, he's opening things up, but White is not ready. White hasn't finished development. Some of White's pieces, White's rook, bishop on that left side, they aren't active, and it looks like he's going to win. Yeah, he's in the form of his life right now. Black rook comes down the board. That is also a very, very impressive move by Wesley. So this is ruthless. He's being merciless right now. Yeah, Nepomniachtchi, he just resigns and he's out.
I'm very glad and happy to be back in the finals. I mean, I think every player here is tough, but any match with Magnus is a big honor already and a good learning experience.
Wesley So, he won both of the matches in the semifinals against Jan Nepomniachtchi, deciding it after only 3 games yesterday. And well, David, Wesley, impressive stuff.
Yeah, Wesley has been impeccable so far in the tournament, unbeaten at this late stage.
Wow.
Nobody has been able to lay a hand on him. He's looking good, very solid, and taking his chances when they come.
And Magnus Carlsen and Timur Ajabo, they were tied after the first day, but on day 2, winning 2 games, Magnus Carlsen. I mean, was he just a lot better than Timur yesterday?
He was just dominant, you know. He really took those opportunities when it was presented to him, and he also did a supreme escape artist act in game 3 against Rajabov. But for me, the highlight was game 4 when he just simply overwhelmed Rajabov, and that was a very impressive display from the world champion.
And now he's ready for the final, Magnus Carlsen. So, David, let's remind the viewers how this all will be decided.
So the final will take place over 2 days, today and tomorrow. It's best of 2 matches, each match comprising of 4 games. It's the same rapid time format we've had throughout the event. If after today and tomorrow, if after these 2 matches we can't separate the players, then it's down to tie breaks. And those tie breaks, time will be slashed. It's Blitz and Armageddon chess.
Yep. It's also a lot at stake because this is a major, the 3rd major in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. So even more money in the prize fund, a total of $220,000. The winner taking home $60,000. But in addition, this being the FTX Crypto Cup, we have added $100,000 worth of Bitcoins. We started out on Monday, almost 2 weeks ago. And yeah, look at that. It's not $100,000 anymore. It's down to $77,000 with only 1 day to go. Yeah. David, do you think the players, Magnus and Wesley, will be keeping an eye on this?
Yeah, I think all of the players have been keeping an eye on this. They will all get a slice of that fund at the end, but it is beginning to plateau. We see there, it's been up, it's been down, it's been fluctuating wildly, but the last few days, starting to level off.
All right. Yeah, we will keep following the Bitcoin today as well. Only 1 day left for that rate to go up for the players. Now, we are looking forward to the final. It is, well, a rerun of 2 previous finals in the tour. So we are talking about reruns in the quiz of today as well.
Yeah, we are. Certainly an inspiration. We're seeing a big rivalry between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So develop. And so we are asking for our quiz of the day. If you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? And as always, you can tweet your answer using the hashtag ChessChamps, or you alternatively can go onto the Champions Chess Tour Instagram page where you can post your answer there. And today, one lucky winner will win one of these Air Things Wave Mini devices that monitor the air qualities. Such an amazing prize.
I agree.
I can definitely testify to that.
Yeah. Jovanka has one herself.
I do, I do.
All right, well, the rerun of the final between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So starts today. And it's going to be a total of 4 games to decide the first match in the final. We're going to start out with the first game where Wesley will have the white pieces. Now, after that, we're going to show you the time chess challenge. It's another challenge we have given to Magnus Carlsen, and I'll get back to that later because we will also show you the next celebrity charity chess challenge. Now, the person who challenges Magnus at 10 years old in the Play Magnus app today is a crypto billionaire. At only 29, he is worth $10 billion. But how will, and he's also the founder of FTX, our partner for this tournament, but how will Sam Bankman-Fried do in our challenge?
Hi, this is Sam Bankman-Fried, and I'm going to be challenging Magnus in the Celebrity Chess Challenge.
He's played great so far.
Oh, that was not good.
He did lose a knight, but he's still playing well.
An excellent strategy there from Sam.
I think he's going to break the record.
Oof, shit.
I felt that Sam kind of played himself down in the chess, right?
Yeah, well, you're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah,
but I mean, a little bit of spoiler, he might be very good.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Another one of those celebrity challenges. David, just not giving away how he did he impress you with the chess?
He did. He didn't say he'd practiced too much, but I think he had a secret play on the Play Magnus app. Yeah, I mean, that's what all the celebrities do. They try to play their expectations down, but they always seem to impress us, all of them.
And we have heard several times being, a chess player can give you some advantages in crypto, so definitely should be the other way around as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've been hearing it a lot from the crypto experts about how it's all about strategy.
Yeah.
I can say that Sam did come to the game with a certain strategy in mind.
Exactly. All right, that's coming up after game 2, but after game 1, we're going to show you a challenge that we have given to Magnus. We have had fun testing different skills that he has that makes him the world's best chess player, his memory, his concentration skills. Today, we're going to be showing you how he did when we tested his competitiveness in time odds chess.
I was hoping you wouldn't find that. Now I have no chance. You still haven't even spent any time.
Yeah, you were there, David, and again, not giving anything away. Magnus was so focused on getting a win with only 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, that's what separates him from the others in the world. It's not just the speed, but it's the perseverance. And yeah, he was up against a strong player, Askill.
Yep.
And I can't wait for the audience to see the footage.
Yeah, I agree. All right, but first the audience will get to see the first game in the final between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. So let's head into the play zone because it's getting very close, that very first game in the final. Wesley So will have the white pieces. And of course, we also have Jan Nepomniachtchi and Timur Rajabov. They are going to play for third place, both sitting in Moscow, actually. Magnus Carlsen at 5 p.m. in Oslo, and then Wesley So at 10 a.m. in Minnesota. So, yeah, Ivanka, what will Wesley have been doing today to warm up for the final?
Well, I think he would have done his preparations yesterday, and today he would have had the pleasure of having a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And quite interestingly enough, he plays at 10 a.m., which is 2 hours perhaps after waking up, which is the optimum time according to science for concentration.
Yeah, and we actually have heard Magnus practicing this thing as well, getting up about 2 hours before he's playing now. David, do you think Magnus will have gotten up at 3 p.m. today?
It is possible knowing Magnus. Well, anything's possible with Magnus. And I remember having a chat with him once. He said he likes to get up between 2 and 4 hours before a game because after 6 hours, that's when the brain is at its peak. That's when he feels at his best, at least, feels that he's warmed up. So, yeah, let's see whether he has warmed up correctly. Who gets the fastest start?
Well, he does have a good record against Wesley, so even if he has lost 2 finals, I mean, these numbers are quite huge.
Yeah, that is a huge imbalance. That's very significant lead in their head-to-head scores as well. Magnus with 42 wins, Wesley with only 14. That's exactly 3-to-1 ratio. But yeah, Wesley seems to pull out those wins when it really counts in those finals, in the big games. Magnus needs to continue his winning run, but yeah, it's going to be difficult. Wesley seems to bring out his best in these really tense, high-stake matches.
Definitely. And he's going to have the white pieces in game 1, Ivanka. So what do we expect from the opening?
Well, you know, it's funny, these two players, because they're quite technical, quite positional. But when they meet in a tour final, pieces fly, fireworks explode on the board. So I'm expecting a lot of opening preparation. I'm expecting a lot of tactical magic. And I can't wait to be here to watch it all.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to have... Because in the quarterfinals with especially Magnus, almost all the games against Hikaru Nakamura ended up with a winner. It was more tense against Timur Rajabov. You guys suspected that. What should we suspect from this one?
Yeah, on paper, it should be one of those slower matches, maybe a bit like the match against Timur Rajabov, where there's lots of draws, it's a bit cagey, not many chances, and it just comes down to who can get that first strike in. But as Ivanka mentioned, historically, in their finals on the tour, as we saw in their head-to-head, so many decisive games, often in quite spectacular style. I think Magnus likes to provoke Wesley. Sometimes that pays off, but sometimes it does backfire, and that's the key. I'm hoping that trend continues, and we'll see some fighting chess.
All right, so again, about taking those few chances and maybe tricking the opponent a little bit or presenting some trouble?
Yeah, definitely there will be tricks ahoy plenty, you know, in this match. I really look forward to seeing that. I mean, looking at their last encounter in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, which was all about the third place, we saw a stunning 23-move victory that Magnus just launched on Wesley. And absolutely, we've had such fiery games between the two, so I'm expecting a lot of fireworks on the board. I'm expecting there to perhaps, if there's going to be endings, it's going to be very superbly played, where it's the final detail that matters.
Fantastic. And we do see Wesley So he is ready there at 10 a.m. in the morning in Minnesota. We are waiting for Magnus Carlsen. Jan Nepomniachtchi is also ready. He's going to fight for third place against Timur Rajabov, and it looks good for Jan Nepomniachtchi now. No mosquitoes. We know the mosquitoes ruined everything for him on the first day in the semi-finals. But it's looking good. It's looking like his precautions has worked. Wesley So ready. We are, as always, waiting for Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, that's a bit of a psychological ploy, I feel, from Magnus. Not only is he psyching himself up until the last second before the game starts, but also I think he likes to keep his opponents guessing. He wants to make that statement of making a last-moment entry.
Yeah, you know what they say, David. Always late, worth the wait.
It's not what my teachers said at school when I was late.
Were you often late, David?
No comment. Punctuality, I think a lot of chess players seem to struggle with for some reason, and I know time trouble addicts, so players who get low on the clock early in the games, they definitely have those issues with maybe just getting too much in your own mind and losing track of time. It's definitely a common phenomenon in the chess world.
Well, Magnus Carlsen, he definitely is late the game. There he is. Magnus Carlsen is here, ready for the first game in the final. It's so typical. Whenever, like, the last player shows up, the first one leaves.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Magnus times it to a T, actually.
Yeah.
Because the other person's had enough, and then Magnus appears.
Yeah. We are waiting for the first move by Wesley So in the final of the FTX Crypto Cup. This is it. Now it's all going to be decided. Third time lucky for Magnus Carlsen or another win for Wesley So. And I have a feeling it's going to start out with some drama already in game one, if it ever starts.
Yeah, the players playing mind games with each other already. Magnus kept Wesley waiting. Now Wesley's keeping Magnus waiting. We do have the first move on the board, though. Wesley opens with his king's pawn. In the last final, back in February, when these two met, Wesley had a lot of success with his king's pawn.
He
Following
did.
openings he had recommended on a chessable course, but meanwhile, Magnus opening with his king's pawn as well in reply. Will we see Wesley do something we've seen him play before? Does he have a surprise in store for Magnus?
Well, this is already a move that he recommended in his own chessable course. And now, if the queen's pawn moves 2 squares, that is his course recommendation. So this is going to be fascinating stuff.
Yeah, first time round. So this is the Italian game. It's a very direct way of playing the Italian game. But first time round, a few months ago, Wesley won this position against Magnus Carlsen. I do think Magnus won't be surprised this time round, however. Magnus will have done his homework. White has an extra central pawn right now, but Black is ahead in development. Black has castled his king. So this is well-known stuff. White tends to be just trying to clamp down, gain space in the centre, keep that as long as possible. Black will try and counterattack. The most common move in this position is for Black to actually bring out his light-squared bishop, which hasn't moved yet, bring it the whole way out, pin one of White's knights. And you have to be quick here. You can't allow White time to just do everything he wants.
And look at that, Timur Rajabov and Jan Nepomniachtchi, they have played a draw already in their first game. Probably a little bit tired from all the action that has been going on now for 6 days, or 7 days, actually.
Yes.
And no wonder it's going to be a few draws there.
There might be a few draws, but they certainly do have to play it out because it's a difference between 3rd place and 4th place.
Yeah.
It matters on the tour standings.
Yeah.
It matters on their qualification places for the big final in San Francisco. And also, let's not forget, prize money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, it is strange to see Magnus Carlsen thinking at this point because they have faced each other in this opening before. And Magnus, after just over a minute of thought, he does bring his bishop out. This is the pin I was mentioning, just eyeing up the white knight, putting some pressure on that diagonal, the white queen as well. It doesn't feel so comfortable because of that bishop.
Shall I tell you what Wesley recommends?
Yeah.
OK, so he recommends pushing the pawn forward.
Pushing the pawn and then moving the queen.
Yeah,
yes.
OK, so pushing the pawn forward, the bishop retreats, and then he... OK, but now he's made a change.
OK, but he shook his head when he did that, looking a bit distracted there, Wesley. So did he do that on purpose, do you think, Jovanka? This queen move, I've actually played this one before, and it's slightly different. It's supposed to be slightly inaccurate because of Black's bishop, the one that did just move, stepping back onto the same diagonal as the white queen.
And did it surprise Magnus?
Well, it certainly did surprise Magnus because in their last game in the Opera Euro Rapid, they had a discussion, actually, when Wesley followed his chessable course recommendation almost to the T. He made a slight change. And, in fact, he beat Magnus in that game. So interesting developments. Like I said, I really adore it when these two players meet because anything happens. They really push themselves to the limit.
Yeah, they really do. And right now, I would expect Magnus, if he's done his homework and if he wants to follow conventional wisdom, just bring that bishop back, bring Black's light square bishop back 1 square, line it up with White's queen, and Black has solved all of his opening problems. As far as I know, that tends to have a very good reputation for Black right now. But maybe Magnus, he does like to go his own way. He does like to be the first one to surprise his opponents. He doesn't like to be the one reacting early on in the opening. He wants to cause that surprise, throw his opponent off balance, and maybe he'll come up with something new. What do you expect here, Jovanka, the world champion, thinking for a while now?
I've noticed Magnus does tend to take, and the early stages, he does tend to take, too many T's there, the most principled approach, and he varies slightly later on. So I do expect him to make the bishop move that you recommended.
So Wesley, Wesley with that queen move, I'm slightly surprised. We did see him shake his head, and just to me, that it makes me feel that, OK, Wesley maybe hasn't warmed up. Maybe he just got the move order wrong. I've done that so many times in my career where you know what the idea is, but you just play it in the wrong order and it changes everything. And to me, Wesley played that queen move. He shook his head immediately. Maybe he just got things slightly muddled up, the move order in his head.
I think it's play acting. I think they're both monitoring. Yeah, exactly. They're both monitoring each other on the computer screens, and they're like, oh, if he goes, oh no, look at this! I made the queen move and I didn't push the pawn. It's just because he's done a chessable course, and it's like such a mainstream thing. And in the chessable course, he does actually drum on about how you should attack the bishop first.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that's a big, big difference. If black retreats the bishop here, there's literally no problems at all for white. White's whole strategy has to change. You have to adapt it compared to what Wesley recommends in that chessable course. So maybe Magnus just surprised. Maybe he's asking himself these questions we're asking each other, Jovanka. Has he got a new idea in mind going away from that chessable course? Is he bluffing?
I think he's bluffing. I so think he's bluffing.
Wesley,
we'll find out, yeah.
Wesley, he has been smiling slightly. And look at Magnus's face, meanwhile. Maybe he's annoyed at himself that he can't quite recall what the recommendation is here, or what his preparation, or what his coach has said, maybe. Magnus, if he spends another 1 or 2 minutes unable to find the best move, he has to just forget remembering things, just try and work it out.
Yeah. I mean, could he just go over to his intuition now instead?
He should, because 3.5 minutes at this stage, when it's still quite a well-known position, that time investment, it's risky. It could come back to haunt him if the game starts to heat up. Being low on the clock at this early stage would not be ideal. And a 5-minute deficit on the clock already in a well-known position. So both players, I think, just warming up, and we might see a flurry of moves from Magnus Carlsen when he finally decides on what to play, because there is some choice. Black can play bishop takes knight, black can play knight takes knight, black can push some pawns in the centre. But once he does decide, I expect Magnus Carlsen to have calculated 4 or 5 moves in advance. So we'll see him start to up the pace.
Yeah.
So what is the tip there to people watching when playing rapid chess?
Yeah.
When do you sort of stop remembering? When do you have to realize that you won't remember? And when do you start just using intuition?
Yeah, I think actually the best rapid players in the world, of course, they know their openings well, but as soon as they're out of their knowledge, they'll just spend 1 or 2 minutes just readjusting. And then if they can't remember, or if they're not sure what to look for, then they just say, OK, I've got 2 or 3 sensible moves here. Let's just work it out. And there we go. Magnus does retreat his bishop. So he spent quite a long time there and playing the most common move, white bringing the queen to the left side. And now I think the best move here for black is actually to bring his knight to the side of the board to attack that white queen. And this is something I've had myself. OK, he retreats with the knight instead. Black retreating, Magnus has done this similar thing before in this type of opening. He's just defending black's pawn in the middle of the board, white castling his king. OK, so just a normal game now. It's all going to slow down and become about manoeuvring. I do slightly prefer white's chances, and the evaluation bar slightly prefers white's chances because white occupies the centre with more pawns. White has more space.
Yeah, and the move's coming very quickly, and now black poses the question to the bishop. I expect the bishop to drop all the way down to the end and just simply carry on, because this is the main move, and there you can see it. And now here the most principal move is actually to undermine the head of white's pawn chain. You can see there's a pawn in the middle. It's on the E5 square, and the reason we are kind of highlighting that square is because that's often a signal when a pawn is there that white should be attacking. Attacking where? Attacking on the king side, because the kingside is the right side of the board, because the pawns all point that direction. So what you want to do when white has such a big pawn like that in the center is you want to break it up. And you can do that by challenging it with another pawn. So that is the main line, is to pick up the pawn in front of the rook, move it one square, and just ask white, what are you going to do about the center?
Yeah, that's going to cause a lot of tension, and it's going to ask some big questions of Wesley So if Magnus does decide on that move. Maybe while Magnus is thinking, let's bring up the analysis board just to illustrate Jovanka's point. This pawn chain for white is very strong, and often, just as a general middle game tip, if your pawns are pointing in a certain direction, you look at the furthermost advanced pawn. If they are pointing in this direction, then it means you should attack on the right side of the board. You should attack towards the side where your furthest forward pawn lies. And likewise, with black, actually at the black at the moment, it's not clear where you should attack because your pawns aren't so far advanced. And if white wants to attack on this side, maybe black can get there first by undermining that pawn. Jovanka thinks this move is maybe the most critical, the acid test of white's idea. You advance your pawn. With black, you just try to undermine this guy. And if white is too slow, if you do get the chance to capture, then suddenly black's rook might become active along this line. So that does look very, very sensible for Magnus Carlsen. What else could he be considering? Maybe he wants to advance this pawn, attack the base of white's pawn chain in the middle of the board. Maybe he just wants to develop. If he wants a slower game, maybe we'll just see him move his queen, connect his rooks. Maybe he can bring his knight to this side of the board. Lots of choice by Magnus Carlsen, but it does feel like this is the moment. You might not get another chance. You should strike at white's pawn chain, either with this move, attacking the front of white's pawns, or this move, attacking the back of white's pawns in the centre.
Yeah, and we do have a question from Randy Marasigan, who says that So versus Carlsen once again, will history repeat itself? What do you think, David? Do you think we're going to see the exact same formula as we've seen in the other matches, where there's just been crazy games on the board? Yeah,
I think in both those previous finals, the first day was very, very exciting. So I'm hoping for a repeat of that. I don't know about the results. I just want to see exciting games. And so far, it's shaping up nicely. I think maybe Magnus, he's also asking himself, will history repeat itself? Because right now, look at Magnus's clock time. I think any other opponent, he would never sink into thought this early on, but maybe he has those ghosts of those defeats in his mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Remnants.
I do remember Magnus himself saying that in the Opera Euro Rapid, I mean, he didn't trust his intuition, he didn't trust his instincts, and there were times where Magnus was tempted to sacrifice pieces, but he was put off by the fact that Wesley was playing so fast. And it could be exactly the same here, because you see, Magnus is under 7.5 minutes. Wesley, more time than he started with, I mean, 16.
Look at the clock, 9-minute difference now between the two players. And we're pretty much still in a well-known position.
Right.
At least the ideas are well-known. And Magnus, surely to walk into this opening, which he's had in the past against Wesley, surely he would have discussed the ideas with his coaches, maybe played some sparring games, practice games with his trainers. And yeah, it does feel like a, very risky strategy, to say the least, to invest so much time at this early stage, to spend so much time on the clock. He's also boosting Wesley's confidence. Every minute that he spends, Wesley will feel more and more confident about his chances in this game. Nearly 10-minute difference now on the clock.
Yep,
and we're not even at the critical moment in the game.
Right, there's a big luxury that Magnus is taking. And while he's having a pause as to what he's going to do next, we do have a quiz of the day where we are asking, if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? And Daniel Nolan says that they would relive a day from only a few days ago, the third day of the preliminaries, because they were so exciting. I mean, that was insane.
Great answer.
Will they qualify? And Magnus Carlsen in shorts.
Just like yesterday, I think he was in shorts too.
I was just incredible. Like, it was so uncertain whether Magnus Carlsen, world champion, someone who's always come first in the preliminaries, would in fact qualify to the knockout stages. And Jan Nepomniachtchi, World Championship challenger, got in just by a whisker.
I mean, it came down to literally the last few minutes of that final round of the prelims. Yeah, that was one of the most exciting days we've had so far on the tour. Up to this point, at least. Maybe today will supplant that with its excitement.
Oh, we have a move.
Wow, he does come up with a very odd move after that huge think by Magnus. Now, more than 10 minutes behind on the clock, he just brings his rook across one square. That rook is blocked in on that line. It does defend a pawn, meaning that Black's bishop, Black's dark squared bishop, is free to move. White's queen will no longer attack pawns on that B line, but that's a purely defensive move. Personally,
never been played before, David.
Yeah, I'm not surprised it's never been played before. That is not the first move that comes to your mind. It's human instinct to do something, to be direct, to take action. But Magnus just taking a time out to... well, I was going to say improve his position, but I'm not necessarily sure that improves his position. That move may or may not be useful later in the game. It probably just got to a point where Magnus was looking at those direct moves, the pawn pushes we were discussing. He didn't like the look of either of them, didn't suit his taste, and he just thought, OK, let's just make any move and wait to see what Wesley does.
Yeah.
But it does feel like a bit too much of a luxury.
I wonder whether it's because of a bit more mundane reason that maybe Magnus, and I might have to whisper this, forgot what the main idea is and didn't trust himself. Like, he knows that pushing the pawn on, challenging is great. It's for, it's the acid test of the line, as you say. But maybe he couldn't remember all the kind of technicalities, all the subtleties beyond it. So he decided, you know what, if I'm going to be out of book, you should also be out of book, Wesley.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think if Magnus had remembered the opening theory, he would have put his knight on a different square earlier on, and Black is at least fine. Maybe has the advantage in this early stage. But Magnus, yeah, it feels like his homework in this game, normally his opening research is great, his homework is great, great coaches, but in this specific game, it's not been ideal so far, and we see that on the clock. And yeah, I mean, I do see a critical moment maybe coming up a bit later on when pieces start to get traded, when finally Black does decide to push some pawns, because you have to, as Black, you can't tolerate White's central pawns forever. At some point, you'll have to push pawns, and that will be the critical moment. And that might come with Magnus only having 2 or 3 minutes on the clock, and that's going to be difficult to handle. We've seen Wesley so in the past. He is great at kind of keeping the pressure on both the board and the clock, finding productive moves, but not committing his position too much. Wesley's great at that. So if Wesley wants to maybe maintain that time advantage, I think he can. And the consequences for Magnus of these 2 long thinks he's just had, yeah, they might be dire later on. But OK, let's think about Wesley's position with White. What would you do? I mean, Black's just moved a rook there. It doesn't look like that contributes too much to the position. So I would just think it's time to improve a White piece. Maybe bring one of the White rooks towards the centre. White's rooks are connected, very flexible. They can both find some decent squares. And no completely open lines for those rooks right now, but the centre will open up at some point. So you might as well bring the White rooks towards the centre in anticipation of that. And, OK, Wesley taking a pause. Normally when the top players take thinks, it does mean they're calculating, it does mean they're looking for that direct action, but I still don't see anything White can do that's too scary for Black yet. White doesn't really want to capture the Black knight in the middle of the board, because that would, I mean, trades here, that would actually help Black. Black is slightly more cramped, Black's pieces slightly less active than their counterparts, so trading pieces is not really on the agenda right now for Wesley, at least. So he will not play knight takes knight in the centre of the board yet. Also, if White captures the Black knight, Black's pawn would be able to take, and suddenly the structure would change. White's pawns might start to become weak. So Wesley, he'll try and keep the tension if he can.
And well, there's someone who's not keeping the tension at all, or maybe that is exactly what they're doing. Timur Radjabov and Jan Nepomniachtchi have played another draw. So this game is still, of course, this match is still in game 1, and the player is fighting for 3rd place. They have finished 2 games already, and both of them very quick draws.
No, I've just figured out why Magnus came up with his rook move and why Wesley is now taking the time out to think of a reply. And the reason is because I tested out, what is the theory, say, if Black hadn't moved the rook and picked up the knight just to improve. And there, White is almost always responding with the knight move to the edge of the board, attacking the bishop. And all the other moves that Black has that doesn't involve challenging in the centre, it's all about chasing away that bishop. So therefore, if Wesley does do the most theoretical thing, yeah, exactly. And
here you cannot move the bishop because this pawn would drop. So Magnus defended it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does feel like a very slow move, though. And if white brings the knight to the edge of the board, which he has done, you predicted the future, Jovanka. White's knight eyeing up this bishop. At least Magnus now, he has the opportunity to just move that bishop away from the attack. He can retreat that bishop. You can also maybe find a more active square. OK, he does retreat the bishop to safety. And now, wow, look at these. We say knights on the rim are dim, but look at these two knights, both of them finding the edge of the board. Yeah, knights on the side, we do not abide. But right now, both of those knights have gained time. This knight was attacking black's bishop earlier on, that bishop moving. Now the white knight attacking the other black bishop, and most likely we'll see that move. Actually, we can't see that bishop move right now. I was going to say maybe Magnus wants to save this bishop, but if you try and save it, then suddenly, after white's pawn pushes forward, this knight is trapped in the centre of the board. So Wesley, he has a cunning hidden plan of actually just stepping this pawn forward in the current position, stepping this pawn forward, trapping black's knight. Magnus has to come up with something to save it now, and he tries to save it by pushing his pawn forward. So if white attacks the knight at least has somewhere to run back to. The knight would be protected on that square by a pawn. So both sides coming up with very interesting ideas. Wesley going for this unusual formation of the two white knights on the side of the board. Will he be rewarded, or will those knights be punished? Those knights could easily become targets or just be misplaced later in the game.
Yeah, they look kind of funny, like two statues on the side, just looking over everything. Yeah. Ready to jump in.
Well, ready to jump in. The one on the right is a little bit worrying, actually. But OK, it does have a purpose. It might try and trade itself off. But Magnus hasn't dealt with that knight attack on the bishop, as instead challenged the pawn in the centre. So are you surprised by that, David?
No, I think that's a very sensible move by Magnus. I think he had to do that pretty much to find a way back for the black knight, that black pawn protecting the knight's escape square. And, yeah, I heard you remark on that, Kaya. Magnus made a face, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Slightly puzzling why he made that face, because I think he played a good move as black, or a necessary move at least. Maybe he just realised there was something he hadn't calculated in advance, and maybe that surprised him. But no, it looks like a decent move for black there. And Wesley just deciding, is now the moment to use white's knight on the right side of the board and maybe trade itself off for a bishop? Or do you push a pawn, attack black's knight, kick it away from the centre of the board? Lots of choice for Wesley, so...
I know what I would do.
What would you do?
I would... I forgot about attacking the knight. That escaped my radar. Instead, I was just focusing on supporting the pawn that's been attacked in the centre. I want to reinforce it, and my favourite move in this type of position is just simply to push my pawn 2 squares up.
The F-pawn.
The F-pawn, and just keep the tension on the board. Because if there's one thing, especially when Magnus doesn't have so much time on the clock, I want to give him choice. I don't want to force the play. I don't want to go knight takes bishop, because then I'm giving Magnus a free move and knight takes knight. And it does seem to be fitting in with his plan. But instead, if I just reinforce the centre...
so in one move, you want to push that pawn 2 squares?
2 squares, yeah. And I realise that I'm leaving that knight. I'm giving black an outpost. But... you know, swings and roundabouts. Yeah,
that would make white's pawn centre perfect. And, I mean, talking of perfect, look at Wesley's air quality. That is perfect air quality right now. CO2 levels, humidity, temperature, everything great for Wesley. He doesn't go for your move, Jovanka. Personally, actually, that pawn push, I don't think... If you gave me 5 candidate moves, I wouldn't still not consider... Well, maybe it's a good one, but it wouldn't be on my radar. That's how different we are as chess players. You want to push pawns, I would never dream of that, personally, but maybe it would have been a good move. Instead, Wesley going for something more controversial, attacking black's knight in the centre of the board, or at least indirectly attacking black's knight in the middle of the board. And suddenly there's a big threat in the position. Magnus frowning, and just while Magnus tries to deal with this threat, let's bring up the analysis board to show what Wesley is threatening to do, what he's trying to do. If black gets carried away and just captures white's pawn in the centre of the board, then suddenly, after knight takes knight, after black recaptures, white threatening to capture the black knight in the middle, and it's impossible to regain this piece because suddenly that black pawn in the middle is pinned. White would actually win a piece here. It's still pretty complicated. There's still a lot of action happening. Maybe black can even get away with this, but no, Magnus doesn't want to allow this, and instead wants to counterattack. He allows that to happen in the centre, now counterattacking against white's knight on the edge of the board. Suddenly it's complete chaos. This is not a quiet game. Everything is hanging. White has a choice. White can move this knight that's attacked. White can also capture this bishop. White can capture this pawn. So many candidate moves here.
Right. I mean, absolutely. It's a crazy game already, especially when there's so many captures on the board. And unfortunately, it does mean when you have so many possibilities that you actually have to be really methodical about it. You need to make that list and you need to just work through them. You order them, you rank them in order of preference and say, for instance, you like knight takes bishop. Then you start with knight takes bishop. What happens if knight takes knight? And then you continue. I always liken it to putting on the glasses and sitting up straight and just knuckling down and concentrating. But we actually saw Wesley was impeccable yesterday at the calculation.
Impeccable indeed. Yeah, and that's what he's doing right now, Wesley. So he's calculating. He's working out. He's making that list, like you said, Jovanka. He's saying, these are my 3 options, option A, B, and C. What happens if option A, you go 3 moves down the line, you evaluate that position, and then you say, OK, that looks good, but maybe it could be better. Then you look at option B, you go 3 moves down the line, then you compare option A and B, the conclusion there, and that's what he's doing. He's just weighing up the 3 options maybe in his mind.
Are you enjoying seeing yourself on the screen?
I was hoping that you wouldn't notice, Kaya and Jovanka. My face had popped up on the screen.
I agree with Rebus. I also want to relive the moment you guys had to dress up.
Where's the picture of the penguin?
No one remembers the penguin.
Oh, yes.
The penguin.
I remember how much you just owned that costume, Jovanka. You were like, OK, I have to do this. I'm going to own it.
The bow tie especially.
Yeah.
Off the costume there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, white's knight that was attacked on the other side of the board, we did mention one of the top options for Wesley So was just simply remove that knight from the fire of black's pawn. So the knight re-centralizes itself off the edge of the board. I think very sensible from Wesley So. At least now for black, however, OK, Wesley shaking his head, at least for Magnus, despite the fact his clock is ticking down, his knight in the middle of the board will never be trapped anymore. At the very least, at the very minimum, Magnus can just capture that white knight that has retreated. And Wesley's continuing to shake his head. Maybe he doesn't like the fact that his whole plan revolved around trapping the black knight in the middle of the board. Now that black knight can simply trade itself off for another knight. So white's last 3 or 4 moves maybe weren't as productive as they should have been. And Magnus, he's got tempting options. Personally, I would just hurry and I would just take off white's knight there. Get rid of black's problem piece in the middle of the board. That is actually a bit of a target. Trade off and then start to think. Because right now, look at the clock situation, 3 minutes. It's getting serious for Magnus Carlsen. This is still very tense. Lots of action beginning to happen, but it is the beginning of the action, so 3 minutes is not enough to deal with all of what's yet to come.
Yeah. I agree there, David. It's really shaping up quite nicely for a very sharp tactical battle. I think your move, knight takes knight, is a very human move because it seeks simplicity. And there is a bias in human nature that when things are just too complicated, too tense, we just can't handle it. And so therefore we seek clarification. And we see it. Magnus has chosen that move. And I'm expecting him to capture, I think, with the queen, is what I'm going to say. Okay, he throws in a little bit of a intermediate move. Pawn takes pawn, attacking the knight. We actually have a word for this in chess talk.
We have a couple of words for it, I think, yeah? Zwischenzug.
Zwischenzug, yes.
Ooh. And intermezzo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about the Italian one.
So Zwischenzug is a German word. It just means between move, so like an in-between move. That's the literal translation. And intermezzo is pretty much means the same thing. It means that you don't play the obvious move, you don't automatically recapture something. You flick in a different move first, and next move, you fulfill your plan. And I don't think Magnus can run away with that black knight in white's half of the board because his other knight is attacked right now, and it's probably more important to save that other knight. So I would... OK, we do see the Stockfish suggestions below the players' cameras, and the top move that Stockfish suggests...
That move?
Was not on my radar.
It was not on my radar, but now it's there. I'm like, oh, yeah,
wow.
Of course. You threaten checkmate.
Yeah.
Who doesn't get a rise to their pulses when they...
when they see a move like that,
exactly.
Yeah. So Magnus, actually, right now, he can bring the black queen down 2 squares. This is the recommended move. Ignoring the attack on both the black knights, both the black's knights under fire, but ignoring both of them and just bringing his queen down. And suddenly, using teamwork along this diagonal, the queen and bishop, they are threatening checkmate on this square. If the black queen can capture that pawn in the corner, the white king is trapped. So this would be a real star move by Magnus Carlsen, and it does give a big advantage, but it's not easy to find. This would force white to block the diagonal, and then black's queen could capture this pawn. Black actually having a great position now because white's king has been loosened up. The white king becoming a bit of a target. Black's queen, rook lined up on the same file. It's looking great for black in this type of position, but it's not easy for Magnus to find. Let's see what he comes up with. Personally, I think the most natural move is to take this pawn. The other move the computer suggests will not happen. Wow. OK, I was going to say Magnus will not bring his bishop to this square, but he brings his bishop to this one instead. Magnus Carlsen coming up with a really creative move there, just allowing both of his knights to be captured. Suddenly, white has a choice. White can take this knight, white can take this knight. The whole idea behind black's last move is that after pawn takes knight, suddenly, if white does take a time out to capture this black knight, then the white knight is a target. So much action now, so much chaos on the board. Magnus not finding an obvious move there, but finding something really creative that will set Wesley to think. Right now, Wesley has a huge decision to make. Which knight do you capture with white? Which one would you capture, Ivanka?
I would capture the one next to the queen. Don't think I would touch the one that is next to the black rook. I mean, because if I touch that knight, then suddenly their queen has been activated. And just bearing in mind there's the danger that we saw with the queen and the bishop aligning towards that checkmating square. Yep, you can, they can see it. That's way too dangerous. And look at white's queen. It's like totally offside. And this is like a good... Exactly. This is like a good sign that you should be attacking your opponent's king when their queen is just off on some adventure away with the fairies.
So we think that Wesley cannot play this move. Let's go back to the players. Magnus Carlsen with 1 minute on the clock. Wesley, probably he shouldn't go for that. I agree with you, Ivanka. He should capture the other black knight instead and at least slows down the entry of black's queen into the attack. But, yeah, not an easy decision here for Wesley. There's so much choice. You can capture both the knights. You could also even, probably not right now, but you could consider capturing a bishop. So much choice for Wesley. So the more he thinks, the more time Magnus gets as well to try and work out the consequences and work out his reply in advance. So no matter what Wesley does now, he's been thinking for 2 minutes, Magnus will be ready with a reply. Yeah, this last move by Magnus, the evaluation bar didn't quite like it, but I think it's a fantastic idea. And it's at least posing practical problems to Wesley. Wesley now having to deal with some serious potential threats against the white king due to those diagonals that we highlighted. And Wesley, he's definitely slowed down. There's no easy solution. Which way would you capture that black knight next to the white queen, Ivanka? With the queen, with the pawn?
The natural one is with the queen. That is the natural kind of instinct. But, I mean, I think there's also a case for pawn takes knight. The only reason I can think about pawn takes knight is just to stop the black attacking.
Yeah, to keep the white queen on the same diagonal as the black king, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I think on that kind of basis, I think I would move pawn takes knight.
Yep, that would make sense, and that's going to be on Wesley's mind, which way to capture that knight. Once you've decided which knight to capture, if it is that one, still two choices, that makes it incredibly difficult. Suddenly...
Yeah, and suddenly we see from 6 minutes, Wesley is down to under 4.5 minutes. So much choice and so many possibilities to go wrong. I'm just looking at, is that 28 degrees that Magnus has? I'm always a bit confused, you know, because my AirThings device is always telling me off when I'm 25 degrees. It says, it's too warm, open up a window.
Anything more than 18 degrees for me, and I'm just sweating buckets.
Sweaty Betty, as you always say.
Exactly. But OK, every player, I mean, that's why it's great to know these, see these stats. Every player, every person is different, right, in their home office. And OK, meanwhile, Wesley does capture that knight with his pawn, as expected.
And Magnus ticking down on his clock.
I can see, Kaya, you've seen a result in the other game.
That's correct. After 35 seconds, Game 3 between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Timur Radjabov was finished with a draw. So they have now played 3 games, all draws. What do you guys expect from the 4th one? Well, I hear some news.
I know what I'm... Well, I don't bet, but I know what I would put my money on. Meanwhile, there has been a lot of action. Magnus Carlsen did bring his queen up to threaten checkmate, as we predicted in a different scenario, and that was blocked. White's bishop now blocking, and the black queen having to sidestep. White has captured one of black's bishops. So suddenly, if we do a count, material is still level. material on the board is still equal, but it's opposite colour bishops. Black has a very, very strong bishop in White's half of the board. White's bishop attacked, had to step back, attacking Black's queen. Do you like this transition? Who do you prefer in this position after all those trades, Jovanka?
Well, I prefer black. The black pieces. I mean, the one thing I was thinking of is actually taking the bishop off the previous move. But OK, I would not let that black-white bishop...
light
squared bishop stay on the board. I would simply...
knight takes bishop right
knight
now.
takes bishop. No questions asked. It's just too much of a thorn in my side. And then I have learned from the best when it comes to defending, and it's like trade of queens.
Yeah, I don't think Black's actually threatening too much, though. OK, I agree, you have to get rid of Black's bishop right now. It's just too scary around the White King, in the vicinity of the White King. Too many loose light squares there. So after White does play knight takes bishop, I don't think Black's got any threats. So maybe White just has time to bring his rook from the left side into the game. I slightly prefer White in that position. I just think that the White bishop's super strong, and I think Black does have this rook on the left side of the board that won't activate itself for 2 or 3 more moves.
OK.
So, yeah, I think the key move, knight takes bishop, but I don't think there's anything at all for White to worry about if that happens, or once that happens.
You got nerves of steel, because I was already visualising a future where the black queen stays on that ideal square, and then suddenly a black pawn has found itself mysteriously.
Takes a long time, you think?
It does take a lot of time. But this is the thing about chess and ghosts and psychology. Often the players are scripting their own story, their own narrative as to what will be happening on the board. And what you saw there was David being ice cold and saying, actually, there's no threat. And my reaction, actually, of trading queens was simply a reaction to something that would happen, if I'm objective, 3 moves later. So it's very, very important. Don't be emotional when you're playing a game of chess. Definitely don't let your emotions get the better of you. And be ice cold and just look at the position, be totally objective. And it's difficult to do, actually.
It's finding a balance as well, because sometimes if you do see your opponent's threat, sometimes it does take you 2 or 3 moves to stop it, and that threat is only coming in 2 or 3 moves' time, so you have to stop it immediately in advance before it even does materialise on the board. So, it's good to be aware of your opponent's threats and how urgent it is to defend immediately against them. That's what Wesley So is weighing up in his mind right now. Does he need to capture that black bishop with his knight now, or can he delay it maybe a few moves, keep Magnus guessing? Personally, I would just take that bishop off, as he has done. That bishop was just too well placed.
And I'm curious now how he will react. And, he is a super grandmaster for a reason. And there he just calmly walks his queen 1 square forward. Would not have dreamt of that move at all. I mean, to me, it's just like... It removes the connection from the queen getting to the right.
It's highly surprising, right, that Wesley has pushed his queen up there. He's going after Black's pawns on that left side, but Magnus, he's giving up his pawns. Look at the black rooks now and the black queen. They're all lined up together. It's looking like there's going to be some threats. You mentioned earlier, Jovanka, that Black's threats might take 3 or 4 moves.
Now there's a big threat.
Whoa, what's happening with the bar?
Knight coming in. I mean, is there a threat to, knight...
Which square?
To the centre, just to sacrifice itself.
Yeah, let's bring up the analysis board, because suddenly it does look like Wesley So's underestimated Black's attack. Let's keep an eye on the players. He might react soon, Wesley So. If he gets greedy and takes his pawn, which must have been his intention, then Black's knight would jump in to this square, threatening checkmate. And after pawn takes knight, suddenly the queen takes. White's king is just under heavy fire. When the king moves, Black's rooks are going to enter the position next turn. So Wesley tried to stop that. He tried to defend that square, and now the pawn is coming. Instead of queen takes pawn, Wesley did bring his rook across, and now look at this. Magnus just so calm, bringing Harry the h-pawn. If this pawn gets 2 squares further forward, then suddenly it's going to support the queen jumping in, and suddenly the white king is about to get checkmated. It might just be about to get checkmated anyway. Just judging by the evaluation bar, it does look like there's no defence against this plan. Black simply just walking this pawn down the board.
Yeah.
Using it as a new attacker. White can't trade queens. That was your idea, Jovanka. It's going to take too long now to get that into play.
Yeah.
Wesley just underestimating the danger.
Unbelievable scenes here, because this was my nightmare when I looked at the position a few moves ago, and Okay, so we do have a move. He's advanced his pawn, so what's his response if black were to just to push one square further?
Yeah, we will see Magnus push his pawn one square further just to loosen up white's king shelter even more. There we go. Yeah, I mean, this is, we've said in the past, it is kind of AlphaZero influenced by AI, this type of idea with black. But it's just good chess. It's just pushing a pawn, weakening your opponent's king, using the pawn as a battering ram. Now Wesley So takes a pawn, but that pawn looks irrelevant. White's queen is just not joining the action.
We got an explosive move, David. We have a tactic on the board. Magnus is willing to sacrifice a knight just to open up the white king position.
Not just
and it's going to be checkmate. We have to show this, mate.
Yeah, we will go back and show this. Actually, Magnus was ready to sacrifice his queen if something different had happened there. But, OK, Wesley trying to trade off a set of rooks, but that's not going to help him. Magnus pushing a pawn, white's rook has to move, and then it's just going to be checkmate. Wesley So he's either losing a rook or he's getting checkmated. He just resigns.
Wow, what a dramatic start to the final. Magnus Carlsen almost getting a checkmate here and winning the first game with the black pieces. And look at this. He's definitely looking over this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy game. So many fireworks from an early stage. Magnus, yeah, he initiated those fireworks. He wanted to go on the attack. He was taking big, big risks, but it paid off at the end.
All right, well, what a surprising start to the final. I mean, Wesley, his first loss of the tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. And he did it in spectacular style. I mean, that was... OK, I think it's a little bit self-inflicted. He just didn't appreciate how strong Magnus Carlsen's attack was. And it was a little bit surprising because we have seen Wesley play superbly in defence. But OK, here... All credit to Magnus Carlsen, because when he was given the chance, he really was incredibly ruthless. Wesley had no chance in the end.
All right, well, I am definitely very ready to hear David's analysis of what happened in this game. So here is the Lisoveta learning point.
Jovanka mentioned Wesley So's defeat was actually quite self-inflicted, and it was all caused by the fact that he misplaced his own queen. The white queen here not taking any part in the action. It's all going to be about the white king side, white's king. And look at the black queen meanwhile. The black queen is going to be a fantastic attacking piece. Earlier on, Wesley should have brought the white queen back towards that side of the board, maybe offering a trade of queens, but it's too late now. And Magnus highlighted the fact it's too late by bringing another attacker into the game. His knights, his rooks are perfectly placed. It's time to introduce a pawn. Magnus pushing forward with this pawn, as we saw a bit earlier, trying to throw it down the board. Wesley tried to block the advance of this pawn, pushing his own pawn one square, but when Magnus pushed forward, white taking a pawn with his queen, this was the killer blow. This finished off Wesley So. And Magnus just sacrificing his knight. The hidden point behind this is if Wesley So captures this knight with his pawn, Magnus was ready to sacrifice his queen, giving up his queen for a rook, and suddenly the two black rooks on their own trap the white king. The white king unable to find any shelter, no pieces around to defend it. This is a beautiful final checkmate. Wesley, he didn't allow this. Instead of taking with the pawn, he took with the bishop, but this allowed a more mundane way to checkmate. Magnus just took this pawn back after white tried to trade rooks. He stepped forward with his own pawn. The final position is losing for white because his rook is attacked, and if he moves the rook away, then suddenly queen takes pawn, the white king is under fire, and checkmate. Next move with two queens, double check and checkmate. Magnus finishing this one off in style.
Dramatic start to the final. Wesley So is now down by 1 point in the first match. He's going to have the black pieces in the next game coming up in about 12 minutes. And coming up after this game, we're going to have the next Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge for you with a crypto billionaire and the founder of the FTX company that we have partnered up with for this tournament, Sam Bankman-Fried. But now, we have had fun testing Magnus Carlsen before these tournaments. We tested his memory, where he just excelled. We also tested his concentration skills. And now, before this tournament, we wanted to test his competitiveness, and we did so with challenging him in something called time odds chess.
All right. Let's go.
Fortunately, doesn't know theory.
Flag will. Okay.
I was hoping you wouldn't find that. Now I have no chance. You still haven't even spent any time. Knocking stuff over. I could actually have taken that. Damn it. Our position is better for the first time in the game. No chance. I'll try once more.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
So let's just develop. Very happy.
Just knocking over everything, that's the problem. It should go down clumsy. Yeah, I have no chance. Har vi noe tyngre brikker?
Ja.
Det trenger jeg i hvert fall. Ok, la oss prøve den her da.
Yep, let's go. Yep, this doesn't look very good.
Maybe I'm gonna make it.
Woo! Good game.
Finally.
Right. Nice.
Finally, Magnus Carlsen was able to win a game against Askild here, who is now joining us in the studio. And we did see it on your rating, Askild. Of course, you're a very good chess player. So how impressed are you that Magnus actually eventually won with 30 seconds on the clock?
It's really impressive, and I guess it just shows his competitiveness and that he really wants to win, no matter who he's playing and what format. Yeah. So it's really impressive. And
David, you were here this day as well. I think I'll actually have to tell the story of this day, because Magnus showed up and he was very low on energy. He had slept awful. He wasn't feeling well at all. He played a game against you. Yeah. Blundered awfully. He just wasn't feeling good this day.
Yeah, but that's what makes him a great champion, that even though he wasn't at his best, even though maybe he didn't really want to be there, he still found a way to win, and he didn't give up. Many people, I mean, I would have given up after losing so many games. I would have asked for more time, but no, not Magnus.
Yeah, and because you said it, Askild. I mean, so the first game, losing, and we said to him, okay, Magnus, maybe you should try with 45 seconds. But he was like, no, I want to go again with 30 seconds. I'm going to make it. What does that tell us about him?
No, I guess it just, as I mentioned, he's so determined to win, and he challenges himself to go again, and I feel that's one of his strengths. He just this mentality to always push himself to become better and faster and stronger.
Yeah.
So I think that sums it up.
How important is that competitiveness to be at the very top? Because I guess like at younger age, you can see many players, they're all very talented, very good. At some point, someone just shoots up. Is competitiveness one of those factors?
I think it's important because you see many players, they reach 2,700, for example, in rating, and then they stop improving. And I think this winning mentality is also a necessary skill to become the best player in the world.
But we have to remember, David, Askild did win 2 games against world champion Magnus Carlsen. That is impressive.
More than most people win against Magnus in a lifetime. And clearly you've cracked the code to beating Magnus. What tips would you give Wesley So now?
I mean, I played really fast against Magnus, and often when you play fast, you also get some confidence because you believe in yourself, you believe in the moves, and especially in rapid chess, it's important to put pressure on the clock. So I would think that could be a strategy for Wesley in the next couple of games.
Yeah.
I mean, you know Magnus extremely well. How do you rate his chances having started with a win now?
Yeah. I mean, he had the perfect start, winning with the black pieces, and I think he's looking for revenge now to finally beat Wesley.
Yeah, that would be exactly what he's looking for. Now, Askild, of course, we've also enjoyed during these last few tournaments the Askild asking videos. You have been interviewing a lot of the players. So what is it like getting to know them? Because often it's about other things than chess you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a chess fan. It's great to talk to all these fantastic players and ask them about life and other things also besides chess.
Yeah, and we have another one coming up for you now, another Askild asking video with Anish Giri, who unfortunately was knocked out in the quarterfinals. But before the tournament, when Askild talked to him, it became very clear that Anish Giri is very much into cryptocurrencies.
Welcome to Askild Asking.
You are never able to predict whether it's going to go up and down, and it's the same like playing chess, that you just make a move with the information you have, and then only in hindsight can you tell what was good or not. To give you an example compared to chess, we've got these chess engines. That's also a fascinating topic. You've got this sort of the old-fashioned alpha beta engines that were just like mostly relying on calculation, and the new ones that are like, well, put it very, very approximately, they are sort of relying on these neural networks. They have this very quick estimation, sort of the intuitive estimation of positions. And then at some point, these two sort of converge together, and you've got the hybrid engines like you have now. The best engines now are hybrid. And they have the neural network still, but they still do that search, which eliminates all the blunders. And for example, even in the crypto, the idea is that it's decentralized, right? Completely. But there are some projects that combine the decentralized aspect of that with some centralization as well. And you've got the hybrid projects there as well. And that's also kind of fun that that you've got that sort of concept of taking the new concept with the old one and putting it together and making a hybrid system. And you have the same in chess engines and also the same in the crypto. So sometimes like when I hear some of these projects, I find it kind of fun to to read about, talk about.
Thank you. Catch you later.
Anish Giri, he is very much into cryptocurrencies, and this being the FTX Crypto Cup, we are following especially the Bitcoin, because we have added $100,000 worth of Bitcoin to the prize fund. So let's take a look at the rate right now. Still at $77,000. It's gone significantly down from $100,000, but it's going to be hard to tell what it's going to be tomorrow. I mean, it's changing all the time.
Totally. I mean, we've been on a journey, haven't we,
with
the Bitcoin? First of all, it was down to 68,000. Now it's 77,000. It's been as higher because...
Oh, the microphone is off. There we go.
Sorry. My apologies.
You were saying, Ivanka.
Well, I was saying we've been on a really long journey adventure with Bitcoin. First of all, It went down as far as 68,000.
Yeah, right.
And then it went up to 80,000. Now it's down to 77,000. It does seem as though it's stabilizing. But tomorrow is the final day, and who knows, anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. All right, well, the Bitcoin isn't the only thing we're following. Of course, we always have the quiz of today. And because it's another one with Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen in the final, we're talking about reruns.
Yeah, we are. You know, they are really building up to be the biggest rivals, especially on the tour. What amazing matches.
Definitely.
And so we are asking, if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? And of course, you can tweet your answer using hashtag #ChessChamps or go onto our Instagram page and post your answer there. But Cosmos says that they could not resist the temptation of watching the Mechanical Turk playing from 1770 to 1854. Simon, I think, covered the Mechanical Turk there. One of the many chess history goodies.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
You said it as well. You love that story.
I love it. Like, who was the person playing within this device? Who hatched up the plans? I would just love to know more. And I would love to be there when they thought of the idea of coming up with this big trick.
Yeah.
And Adam Wilcox says for sure that they want to be in person for the debut of a superhero, watching David Chili Willy Howell, the master of fire in action, would be breathtaking.
I went to school with a person called Adam Wilcox. I wonder.
Ooh, maybe it's him.
And finally, Egregious says that they would relive the time when Bitcoin was invented so that they can invest a whole lot of money and enjoy that.
Ingenious.
That is a very genius answer. Yes, I want to do that as well. All right. We are following the Bitcoin. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow. But right now we're following the first match in the final. These are the results. So first of all, take a look at those two. Timur Radjabov and Jan Nepomniachtchi fighting for third place. After, well, it's been less than an hour and they finished 4 draws.
Yeah, I guess not too surprising. Both of them disappointed after losing in yesterday's semi-finals.
So it's all going to be decided between those two tomorrow. They will be tied. Magnus Carlsen, he won the first game against Wesley So. And here it is, the second game.
And we've started Magnus opening with his King's Pawn as well. This tournament so far in the FTX Crypto Cup, we have seen Magnus unleash openings like the orangutan defense, but this time he's back to classical play, opening with his King's Pawn. And we see the Spanish opening, bringing his bishop out, just putting some pressure on Black's knight. How will we see Wesley react to this? Throughout the tournament, we've seen him play the Berlin defense. He does that again by bringing his knight out. Now he's about to capture White's pawn in the center of the board with his knight. Magnus happy to allow that to happen, happy to see that on the board. We do see White regain his pawn. A couple of trades there, a couple of trades of knights. Black's king castling, White's occupying the center. These players have had this against each other in the past. The rooks now looking at each other on an open line. This tends to be Magnus's weapon with the white pieces when he's happy to play safety first chess. Magnus not taking too many risks with his opening at this point. If the rooks come off on the open line, it's likely that White will not have sufficient pieces to put pressure on Black's position. Magnus now bringing his bishop out. I would expect Wesley to snap off the rooks right now, take those rooks off the board. We actually saw Magnus use this exact position against Radjabov yesterday. And I was enjoying the symmetry of the positions when both sides had exactly the same setups. It's like a mirror image of each other. And we might yet see that. Black retreating his knight, keeping the Black knight nice and safe.
Yeah, I think we're going to see exactly the same kind of strategy there. Wesley is very happy just to secure a draw with the black pieces. I mean, it's such a difficult opening to even try again. The symmetry was just too much. It was just too simple a position. Yeah,
now we'll see Black occupy the center with the pawn, trying to establish that symmetry. White's bishop finding a slightly more active square. Yeah, it does feel like Magnus, he will try and put some small pressure on if he can, if Wesley's feeling ambitious, but most likely Magnus is just happy to play safe, very safe chess. And now both sides improving their knights. I would expect to see Black, okay, he brings a bishop out, offering that trade. The trade does happen. Yeah, I don't want to be the bringer of doom, but this one's heading towards equality, heading towards a very level position. You see the speed with which both players are playing. Bishops are now traded. The pawn structure almost exactly symmetrical.
And
Black's ready to bring his rook into the middle, and then it's just going to be nothing to say.
Yeah, I was going to say they've actually played this position before. I thought so, in the New in Chess Classic. So they're just repeating.
White's queen attacking a pawn. Black's king will have to step back to defend it, and then the position repeats itself. Quick game for us this time. Quick turnaround. Magnus just taking the draw to solidify his lead in this final.
Wow. He's going to be happy about this one, I guess, you know, being in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of, you're spending a white where you kind of want to win, you want to put pressure, but it makes sense if you're in the lead, I guess. And Wesley agreeing the draw with Black. He now needs to win this next game with white if he wants to stand a chance in today's first match, at least.
And, well, it's making me really anxious and excited for the next game. With Wesley having the white pieces, I guess definitely he's going to be going for some action there.
Yeah, he has to go in for the action. I mean, interestingly enough, I do remember, I think it's in the Skilling Open on the first day, there was some big fights where Magnus won and then Wesley won again. And then at the final round, I think Wesley had to win on demand. So it definitely is possible. And you said it, Kaya, if you're going to try anything, it has to be with the white pieces.
All right, it's coming up in about 14 minutes, the third game. Wesley So will have the white pieces, and Jovanka said it. He's going to be going for a win in this game. He is down by 1 point against Magnus Carlsen in the final. But now we're going to show you the next Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge that we recorded a few days ago. We now have another Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge for you, and the next player. He's a 29-year-old crypto billionaire. He's number 2 on Forbes' crypto rich list with a net worth of around $10 billion. He has built one of the largest, fastest growing digital asset exchanges in the world, and that is our partner for this tournament, FTX. He's also out to have one of the largest possible impacts on the world. So we're so happy now to be joined by Sam Bankman-Fried. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you here, and we're also so excited for FTX to be teaming up with chess for this FTX Crypto Cup. Now, how are you feeling about this chess and crypto now working together?
I'm super excited for it. I mean, it's a natural demographic, a natural crossover. And, you know, I think that, I mean, I dabbled in chess a little bit. I never played much, but a number of us have. And I think that there's a natural appeal across the aisle there. So.
And you mentioned you've dabbled in chess. Have you been following the tournament at all? Have you been following, well, Magnus Carlsen's progress over the last few years?
I'm only checking in now and then. You know, at a high level, I have been. But anything that I try and follow too closely ends up sort of, you know, getting derailed by markets getting busy and my attention shifting away. So.
And what does draw you to chess? What do you find attractive about the game?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's probably the highest profile, you know, non-physical sport in the world. Seeing one that is just pure strategy play out sort of at a really high level is really exciting.
And Sam, do you have any tips for some of our viewers who are maybe new to the crypto world?
Yeah,
I think I'd just say, you know, educate yourself, and you know, obviously don't you know, don't put on positions that you're not comfortable with. Don't put on positions that you can't afford to lose on. But you know, other than that, you know, explore around and try and figure out what's going on with, you know, all the different venues, the different tokens, the different projects and applications. And you know, I think the more you know, you know, it'll just become a lot easier to navigate the space.
And well, we talked about it, Sam. You had huge success in the crypto business. So, and you're only 29. So, looking back to when you first got into it, can you sort of remember what attracted you about it? What fascinated you about the cryptocurrencies and the crypto world?
Yeah, I mean, I first got involved, you know, about 3.5 years ago because it just seemed like a really big opportunity. There was, you know, a ton of excitement, a ton of interest, a ton of volatility, and just not a lot of, you know, liquidity or infrastructure in the space. And so it seemed like a pretty big a pretty big opportunity to get involved. But I think over my years here, I've definitely gotten appreciation for the upside of crypto, for the efficiencies that it brings to a ton of different systems, and the ways that you can have a pretty big advantage from getting to rebuild a lot of infrastructure from scratch, especially in a natively digital way.
Mm. And obviously there has been a lot of attention, especially for Bitcoin over the last few weeks with Elon Musk, talking about the impact on the environment. Now, I know FTX is very much about being and committed to being carbon neutral. So what's your take on what's happening with Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the environmental point, there's a lot of nasty words, exchanged back and forth. But I think in the end, sort of the real summary there is that, like anything else that consumes electricity, it's, you have to be conscious of that with crypto. But I think that there are a lot of ways to manage it. And I think that, it's not it's not, one of the bigger sources in the world right now, but also that just offsetting it with carbon credits is not that expensive, and that's sort of what we've committed to doing. But you can also see a shift towards renewable energy for Bitcoin mining farms, and also a transition of a lot of the mining from proof of work to proof of stake, which also sort of drastically reduces the energy intake from it.
Now, obviously, we have added $100,000 worth of Bitcoins to the prize fund in the FTX Crypto Cup, and we're going to follow that all the way up until the end of the tournament on Monday. So what's your expectations for Bitcoin during this short period of time now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen. None of this is financial advice. But, we've seen a ton of volatility in both directions recently. And, there was a huge run-up. There's been some bad news coming out of China for crypto, followed by a bunch of liquidations and selling pressure. From that, that's mostly subsided. And so I think we're now in a much more stable state. And I also think we're in a position where, we'll be able to see what happens in a much more natural way, I think, going forward over the next few days with the liquidations over, with the news having been priced in, and I think with Elon's tweets going in both directions, having sort of, whipped around markets to the extent that they will, or at least a lot of that. I think we might see a return to a somewhat more normal price action environment, over the next couple of weeks.
All right, that sounds good for our players. But now we're going to have some fun, play some chess. So, Sam, what's going to be your goal against Magnus Carlsen at 10 years old?
Not to misclick. I think if I can get through the match without just losing from misclick, that'll be really a victory for me.
Yeah. So, David, what will be the regulations for the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge?
So Sam will be taking on Magnus, age 10. Magnus was a tricky customer at that age. Obviously, the goal is for Sam to win. He will have 2 minutes. However, if he isn't able to win, the goal is to last for as many moves as possible.
Yep. So are you ready, Sam?
I am.
All right. Here is the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. Here we go.
All right.
Okay, so Sam playing white here. He opens with his king's pawn.
My goal here is mostly just to make moves that aren't completely embarrassing and make them pretty quickly. Oh, that was not good.
Wow, I can tell he's a good player, though. He instantly spotted that there was a pawn attacked. And, oh, okay, he did just drop his bishop there, but he's played great so far, super fast.
And that is what we need to see. We need to see as many moves on the board as possible. And an excellent strategy there from Sam. He's got his king to safety.
He's castled his king. He's put his pieces on great squares.
Well, certainly given that my goal is a somewhat, sort of a somewhat modest one here.
Okay, he gave a check. He He did lose a knight, but he's still playing well. He's still playing well. He's put his piece on great squares. I can tell he's a natural chess player. And, okay, he's stacked up his rooks on the same line.
And he's advancing his pawns forward, and Magnus is playing a very strange move there. And the rook's now has been centralized.
My goal really is just to, you know, last as many moves as possible. I sort of feel like maybe that would be a good strategy here.
Yeah, that's a perfect strategy from Sam. Okay, I mean, he's definitely been planning this one in advance. He said he hasn't practiced too much, but I think he's been tricking us. And some great moves from Sam, keeping the rook safe, moving his king now. No weaknesses in the position. He's only one bishop down. I think he's going to break the record. He's still got more than 1 minute left, and I think we're already around the 30 move mark. Now under check, running away with the king. There's no chance Magnus is going to beat him in the next 10, 15 moves. Sam impressing here so much.
Oof, shit.
Okay, Sam giving up a rook. He just needs to keep his king nice and safe. That's the only goal now.
It absolutely is, but slightly worrying that Sam is running away with his king. The king is now in check and he's moved.
Okay, he's running back in the right direction though, running to safety. Ooh, trading rooks, maybe not a good idea, but okay, still going to take Magnus a while to finish him off. Sam, I think he's broken the record already, 30 moves. And White's king is going to be unable to stop that black pawn. He should not put the king in the corner though, he's about to get checkmated. Magnus, he's so ruthless in these types of situations. Black gives checkmate.
There we go.
So we do have a checkmate, but we have an incredible high score.
49 moves. He's just shattered the record.
That was a very impressive strategy there from Sam. Good chess, played quickly.
Wow, Sam, 49 moves. That's a huge new record in the challenge. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, I worried that a lot of what I was doing is just sort of moving pieces back and forth to get moves in there. But, you know, at least I didn't call.
It was effective strategy, though.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling, Sam, after playing that quite adrenaline-filled game?
Yeah.
You know, I think I, like, mistimed it a little bit. Like, certainly I got mated with too much time left on my clock, which means I should have spent a little more time thinking about making good moves and a little bit less time just moving things around. But, you know, so be it.
All right. I think we have to take a look now at the score sheet for the Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. Look at that. Sam Bankman-Fried on top of the table with 49 moves. That's 19 more moves than the second person on the list, Rainn Wilson. That is a huge new high score. Fantastic, Sam. Wow.
Well, thank you.
Impressive stuff. All right. So, of course, this is the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. We're going to give out $50,000 to the winner overall's charity, and it's looking very good for Sam right now. But of course, we're also giving out $5,000 to each contestant's charity. And Sam, what is your charity?
Yeah, and we'll be doing it through the FTX Foundation. It's, you know, it's something that we've set up in order to be able to give to you know, some of the world's most effective causes. And I think one of the coolest things about it is that we've also got a ton of donations coming in to it from our users. And I was not anticipating that at all coming in, but you know, our users have given over $6 million already.
Wow.
Through it, and that's been super exciting to see.
How much of a motivation was for you building up FTX to also be involved in charity?
I mean, you know, I think that was one of the biggest points, just in you know, reasons I did it in the first place, was to be able to make what I can, to give what I can, and I think, you know, finding a way to get users involved in that has been really great.
Fantastic. Well, it's fantastic what you're doing for charity FTX, that you have teamed up with chess, and your high score in the Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge is impressive, Sam. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Wow, that was impressive stuff by Sam Bankman-Fried. I mean, that high score, can it even be beaten, Jovanka? 49 moves.
Well, that's laying down the gauntlet for the other celebrities that are going to appear on our show. So it can be. You just saw there that Sam enacted the perfect strategy.
Yeah.
He played quickly, got his king to safety, and then just made moves.
Fantastic strategy by Sam Bankman-Fried. He is in the lead in the Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge by, well, a huge amount. Now, it's getting close. The next game between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley, so it's game 3. So take a look at that. After Magnus won the first game with the black pieces, they played a super quick draw in the second game. And now, if Magnus Carlsen wins game 3 now, so we'll have the white pieces, then it's actually going to be over. Magnus will be the winner of the first match in the final. Wesley so needs at least a draw, but Ivanka predicted he's going to go for the win here with the white pieces. Timo Radjabov and Jan Nepomniachtchi, they finished today very early with 4 quick draws, fighting for third place. So that will all be decided tomorrow. So David, what do you expect from Wesley now with the white pieces? His opening in the first game with a white piece wasn't that successful.
No, it's difficult to say what strategy Wesley will adopt. Normally, in a match situation, beforehand, you prepare 1 or 2 openings, but you want to prepare a safety-first opening. You also want to prepare an opening in must-win situations. So he must have something up his sleeve. I do think it will be different from what he chose earlier, because it led to an interesting position, an entertaining position, but Magnus managed to turn it in his favour. Magnus, despite the long things, wasn't too uncomfortable. I do think Wesley, he's got something new in store. He'll try and keep maybe more pieces on the board this time, make it less exciting for Magnus, just try and keep the tension as long as possible.
And Ivanka, do you think Magnus is like strictly looking at the situation in the final, trying to play very safe, or can he try to sort of take advantage of Wesley having to push for the win here?
Yeah, psychologically, he will definitely be taking advantage of the fact that Wesley does need to win, or at least put him under pressure.
Yeah.
But Magnus actually said it himself. He plays best when he is relaxed.
Yeah.
So I think Magnus has learnt his lesson. He's not going to be thinking about the match score. He's just going to be going in there and enjoying the game.
All right, Wesley, so he needs at least a draw in the third game coming up. If Magnus wins, it's going to be over. And here they are, ready to fight it out in what we expect to be an interesting game. Here we go.
Okay, so another King's Pawn opening so far, and it does look like Wesley, so he's repeating up to this point what we saw in game 2.
Okay.
Game 1, sorry, of today.
Big difference.
Big difference. Game 1 of today. And now Magnus taking the first pause, he brings his knight out. Yep, a complete repetition of what we saw in the first game today. Let's see what the players have in store. So white occupying the centre with more pawns, black with a very strong knight in the middle of the board, black castling. We've seen this before, not just this tournament, but also a few months ago. And this time, Wesley doesn't bring the queen out. We thought that might have been a bit of a slip, the wrong move on. He pushes his rook's pawn forward, kicking back the black bishop, and now bring his rook to the side. Ivanka.
Yeah, that is not what Wesley recommended in his chessboard course. In the chessboard course, he recommended moving his queen out to the side, and this is new move.
Completely new move between these two, at least, between Wesley and Magnus. And there we see Magnus, look at his face. He's slightly annoyed maybe that he hasn't looked at this one, because he will have come prepared for White's other moves. The other main move in the position that almost everyone in the world plays is just to bring the white queen out of the eye line of Black's bishop. Instead, Wesley has got the first surprise in, and will we see Magnus do what he did in game 1? Burn lots of time on the clock, trying to get to the bottom of this. It was a risky strategy. It paid off eventually in that game, but Magnus this time, he cannot deal with this surprise in such a fashion, I feel. This time, Askill said it earlier as well, maybe the secret to beating Magnus is to put pressure on the clock. And this time, Magnus, he just needs to react. That white move with the rook, yes, it's a nice move. Yes, it improves the white rook. It defends White's knight as well. But it doesn't necessarily change the nature of the position. So maybe Magnus can try and adopt some similar plans. And normally... You go, Kaya.
Do you think he will have, with his coach Peter Heine, will have looked at this after the first game, expected that this opening would come again?
He would have expected this opening, but not that last move.
Not that last move. I mean, just checking my database, I can see that there aren't too many games, unsurprisingly. Only 6 games. The highest rated player playing this with the white pieces is actually Jordan van Forest, who earlier participated in the tour. Now, Black's response has varied. It has been like moving the knight that is there on the left side of the board, moving it backwards, just out of the eye line of the bishop. Another move that has been played is to sidestep the king into the corner. And finally, the last one is knight takes knight. So those are the 3 moves that have been played before. Now, funnily enough, White actually has a really good score from this. It's 4 points to 2.
Okay, so historically, White doing quite well from this position. We do notice the evaluation bar doesn't really necessarily approve of White's position, but that's why that's why some of the top players are so good at opening preparation. They know when not to trust the computer. They don't just click and follow the computer's top move every time, because actually their opponents would have also done the same. Their opponents always just prepare for the computer's top move. So the best opening experts actually don't always go for the computer's top recommendation. They find maybe the second best move, the third best move, and cause their opponents surprises. And to me, right now, it feels like White's move, nice move. Magnus, he'll go back to his favourite plan. And we've seen that in the Opera Euro Rapid in February, and we saw it earlier today. His favourite plan with black is to drop back his knight. One of the moves you mentioned, drop back the other black knight. Actually, let's show this on the analysis board. The move I'm expecting, at least, from Magnus is a move it's just his style, just to drop back the black knight to this square. Keep the knight safe from any potential trade later on, and potentially try to jump the knight into better squares, to better circuits.
But David, can I tell you that Jordan Van Forest actually had that position in his game, and Jordan Forest reacted with this. Now, get it. It's so aggressive. He pushed his pawn, attacked the bishop. Bishop steps back, and Jordan was like, I don't care. I'm going to push again. And, wow. If that happens, we are going to see some unbelievably wild position on the board. It's just going to be utter chaos. And, frankly, I approve. Yeah,
I know you love pushing your pawns, Jovanka, and this is a very effective pawn push, threatening to maybe trap this black bishop later on in the game. This is hyper-aggressive. This is the most aggressive way of treating this opening, and that's maybe why Magnus is pausing. He wants to play this move. We've seen him do it several times before in this type of position, but it would invite, if you retreat, it would invite your opponent to go forward. And actually, this pawn push, it might not necessarily be great for White, but it's definitely scary to deal with. And this is the type of position that Wesley is banking on to try and win this game, to try and balance the scores.
Yeah, we've actually seen this type of position happen so many times in their previous encounters. I mean, somehow things just turn really chaotic against them. And I do suspect that this might be something that Wesley has in mind when, if Magnus plays that knight move. So rather than this knight move, you said that would end in chaos. How can Magnus keep more control? I think that's the question he's asking himself. Maybe that's the question we should be asking in this position. This knight move, I mentioned, maybe the most obvious. What else could Magnus be thinking about? Could he trade knights? Could he push his own pawn here? Lots and lots of choice for Magnus. Maybe he can just step his bishop back to solidify and centralise and just protect that black knight in the middle of the board before White gets the pawns pushing. Yeah, Magnus, big decision on his mind. No right or wrong here. No matter what he does, Wesley will try and go on the attack, I feel. Yeah, I think definitely will be playing on Magnus's mind. Why didn't Wesley castle? And when you consider that, the potential answer could be quite straightforward. You're thinking, well, actually, he might want to attack. And but I can just see that this game is going to sharpen up. And we're going to see like a repeat of their earlier matches. And when it comes to that, well, we do have a quiz of the day where we are asking, if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? And you can tweet your answer using the hashtag ChessChamps, or alternatively, you can post your answer on the Champions Chess Tour Instagram page. And Gerald Backman says, and this is a really good answer, October 23, 1918. David, how's your chess memory?
I've seen the tweet now. But I do remember the game. I do remember the result as well.
Round 1, Marshall Chess Club Masters. Frank Marshall springs his Marshall attack on Jose Raul Capablanca. loved to have been there. No, absolutely.
I would definitely like to see that rerun.
Yeah, definitely.
That game was fantastic. And, OK, Magnus, meanwhile, just bringing his bishop to the side of the board, pinning White's knight against the White king, maybe trying to persuade Wesley to castle or trying to persuade Wesley to commit the White king at least. So decent move by Magnus, not committing to anything yet. And, yeah, that game between Capablanca and Marshall, now we talk about the Marshall Gambit as one of the main ways to meet the Spanish opening. And Marshall in that game, he didn't play the kind of setup that we nowadays associate with the Marshall Gambit, something very similar. And he did actually end up losing that game, but it's become one of the most popular openings, along with the Italian game that we've seen in this one. So White did castle the king. So Magnus, maybe being scared of White's pawns all flooding forward, all pushing forward on that right flank, he did kind of take a time out. He actually lost a bit of time just to persuade Wesley to castle. Now, for White, it's far less attractive to push pawns on the right side because that's where White's king resides. So Magnus just maybe playing a psychological trick, just saying to Wesley, I know you want to attack me, but first I'm going to force you to put your king on that side, so there's no more attack now. And after that, we did see a trade, a bishop for knight. Magnus, will he... I think now he will move that knight that we highlighted a bit earlier on. He might drop it back, but he could also bring it to the side of the board. And, yeah, the clock situation isn't great for him. He does bring the knight to the side of the board. Actually, it's on the edge. It's not great, but it is on an outpost. It can't be hit by any pawns, and maybe it wants to centralise itself later on.
Yeah, and that's an interesting move. I don't think I would have considered moving it to the edge of the board. I would definitely have moved it towards the centre. But, OK, Wesley has the bishop pair. This is a great thing. You know, we love our bishops. How is he going to use this bishop? I mean, I would be thinking at retreating my bishop all the way back just to break the pin. And then I want to start the kickback.
The kickback, indeed. And I think, actually, the kickback is going to be the key point if we bring up the analysis board while Wesley thinks. So White does have the bishop pair right now, but this bishop especially lacks a future at the moment. It is a bit of a big pawn. It's just getting in the way. It's just blocked in by its own pawns. So Jovanka is suggesting maybe leaving that one for now, but removing this bishop, retreating it, blocking this potential pin. That looks like a decent move, but it does give Black a bit of time. Maybe Black will break out like this, pushing a pawn on this side. Maybe Black will think about pushing a pawn on the other flank. Not too scary for White. I think White has a pleasant position here, but Jovanka, I'm surprised you didn't suggest the more aggressive push of the pawn, kicking back this black bishop.
My king is there, David.
Yeah. But then you mentioned the kickback. Maybe now this knight will move. I'm not sure which square. Maybe you retreat to this square or the whole way back. And either way, next move, you're maybe going to threaten to kick away the black knight as well. So first you kick back the black bishop. Next you maybe kick back the black knight. This is risky, of course. White's king is super open, is very vulnerable now. And maybe you have to think about Black's queen jumping in. But maybe this can be defended. And
well,
it's high risk but high reward, this type of strategy. Pushing forward, kicking Black's pieces back, but weakening yourself in the process.
Well, now it's up on the board, David. I love it.
You love it?
I love it, yeah.
You love pushing this pawn forward? That's the most direct way to break
it was
the pin.
off my radar because, you know, I've been so trained to think about, you know, you've got to be so careful about pushing pawns, especially when you've castled your king in that direction. So I was slightly hesitant, but now that I'm being objective about it, and this is the big thing about chess, you have to be unemotional, pushing the pawn, force the bishop back, and then once you start the retreat, which is basically aimed at kicking back the black knight that's in the centre of the board, you just have to say, actually, there's no pieces that are coming towards the white king.
Yeah.
So the white king is perfectly safe. And kings are only weak if your opponents can attack them. Yeah,
and as we showed there, Black's queen can jump in, trying to attack the white king, but it's on its own, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got no backup. So, yeah, right now, Wesley, I'm just thinking about the must-win situation. A draw here, he has to win with Black in the last game. It's not going to be easy. We haven't seen Wesley feel confident about beating Magnus with Black in the past. So his chances normally lie with the white pieces. He's got a great score against Magnus with white in this tour, and it feels like now is his chance. Now is the time to push forward. The other move you mentioned, bringing the white bishop back, that would be solid and good, but it's still unclear what the next step is for White.
No, the path has been illuminated. Push, push, push.
It might go wrong, though. It might backfire, so don't blame me if it does. Will we see Wesley adopt that strategy?
Well, yeah.
Looks like he's about to make a move. He does push forward. He's on the attack.
Like it. The swashbuckling move. Okay, so now the bishop steps backwards, and what we're hoping for and what we really anticipate from Wesley is that simply the knight will step back and the big kickback of black's pieces will begin. And it's actually really thematic, because when you look at that pawn structure, I mean, I have seen it so many times, especially with that pawn in the center. It's a pawn located on the square E5. And that actually, we kind of mentioned it before in the first game, how the pawns are all pointing to the right, to the king side. And when that's the case, look at that knight retreat is on the board. Now, it looks passive, but the big idea is to push the pawn in front of the rook one square forward and just to pose problems to the black knight. In fact, the knight could be seriously awkwardly placed. I mean, you can see a situation where it just gets chased around the board.
Yeah, exactly. I expect Magnus to have a long think here, because it's a really crucial moment and black needs to come up with a good idea, because white's plan is very straightforward. Wesley has shown what his plan is going to be. With that knight retreat, he's just going to push pawns, but black has to come up with a way to deal with that. And while Magnus does think, let's bring up the analysis board to show, I just want to show 2 points. Firstly, as Jovanka mentioned, this pawn chain, the front pawn is pointing towards the right side of the board. So those pawns, they're going right. That's why Wesley wants to attack on the right side. He wants to continue attacking on this flank later on. But the second point is more important right now, and that is simply if black wastes a move, if black, for example, Magnus plays a move that he played in the earlier game, if he just moves his rook across, losing time, then white will kick back this knight. This knight doesn't really feel safe jumping into white's position. It might get trapped there later on. So if it does jump back, maybe white will just continue pushing pawns. And when the knight does retreat, it can give a check here, but there's a bit of a problem. After queen takes pawn, it's just going to get trapped. We're showing all these knight traps. The knight's going to get trapped no matter where it goes. And if it went back to a safer square early on, then suddenly the bishop gets trapped. All of white's pawns pushing forward, aiming to trap the knight or the bishop, or maybe even both. And suddenly Magnus has to deal with finding safe squares for both of those two pieces. It does feel like suddenly Wesley So, with big threats on the board, he's asking questions of Magnus Carlsen. Magnus needs to come up with something in the current position, because that is the idea. This pawn pushing forward, kicking back black's knight.
All right, so Wesley So having more success in this one than he did in the first game with the same kind of opening.
Well, yeah, there's a lot more problems being posed to Magnus. Even though the first game, I would say, was a success in the sense that Magnus had to think. But Magnus managed to navigate the troubles quite easily there. Here, I just don't see what Magnus is going to do. I mean, my instinct here is just simply to say, fine, you're coming forward with the pawns. I don't think I can stop you, so I would start to challenge in the centre. How?
Yeah.
I'm either going to challenge the head of the pawns or I'm going to challenge...
Okay, Wesley not looking too happy. It looks like he was gesturing and now leaning back. But his position on the board looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does, certainly it looks great.
One thing that would be going through my mind right now, if I were Magnus, it would just be, okay, white's going to push forward. It looks like one of my pieces is going to get continually having to retreat, continually getting attacked, harassed. And the good thing for black is that white's king is a bit open. So I would be looking for ways to maybe sacrifice a piece, to give up a piece later on, just to continue opening up white's king position. But I just don't see any way right now. White's knight also at the bottom of the board does have the option of just jumping in front of white's king, and knights are a king's best friend. Any attacks would likely fail against the white king at the moment. So Magnus maybe needs to just... I'm struggling for suggestions as well. Maybe he could push a pawn forward in front of the black rook on the right side.
That's what I think. That is the most natural move to me, just to disrupt the pawn chain.
Maybe you could have pushed it 2 squares as well. I'm not sure which one was better, but either way, Magnus is trying to open up his rook on that F line now. Very logical.
And if I were Wesley, I would say, fine. I don't mind. I'm simply going to carry on with my plan and attack the knight.
Yeah, when in doubt, push a pawn.
Exactly.
Gain time.
Exactly. And I think Wesley has kind of cottoned on to the fact that when you're going to take big risks in the position, it's best to do so kind of confidently and quickly. I remember the risk that he took in the Euro Opera Rapid, where he was playing very provocatively and super quickly as well. And it put Magnus off his game. And there is the move that we really wanted to see. And now Magnus has a choice. Is he going to try to sell that knight as expensively as possible? Or I think probably move the knight.
Yeah, maybe just retreat the knight. Keep that knight safe for now. I did show a variation earlier on, and I think something similar might happen in this game. The black knight will continue getting attacked as it retreats, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done simply. And I think you make a really good point, Jovanka. If the clock times right now are pretty scary for Magnus Carlsen, 12.5 minutes against 6. If those were reversed, if Wesley were the one with 6 minutes and 6 minutes behind on the clock, then he wouldn't feel confident opening up his king. Opening up your king, you need time to calculate. You need time to ensure that the king's safety will continue. OK, Magnus doesn't move his knight from the centre of the board. He counterattacks against white's bishop on the other flank. That's logical as well. I do think that white bishop will just step away from the attack, and the question still is posed to the black knight in the middle of the board. Well, we see Wesley So just retreat that bishop. But yeah, my point is that simply with 12 minutes on the clock, you feel more confident opening up your king, being aggressive, pushing pawns forward. With 6 minutes, or even going lower on the clock, you do not feel confident at all. Because there's so much risk involved. Meanwhile, the white bishop did save itself from the attack of black's pawn, and black's knight saved itself as well by stepping back. Now the light squared bishops are looking at each other. Most likely they will be traded off, and probably in general that would help black, because black is a bit cramped. Black is getting attacked by these white pawns, so trades do look useful, but I don't know, somehow it's a bit shaky for black right now, especially the two knights. They're not connected, they're not coordinated. One of black's knights just looks horrible on that left side, not participating. The other knight about to get kicked again by some of white's pawns. So dynamically, white is doing great. Strategically, black is OK, but it's survival time for Magnus. He just needs to survive the next few moves.
I mean, how is he feeling looking at this?
Magnus?
Yeah.
Not super confident. I think that's reflected in his face.
But wait, David, isn't there a way to get triple pawns for black?
Triple pawns.
Yeah, I mean, so shall we bring up the board and show how it can happen? So I'm just suggesting that you go bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, and now you just go bishop takes knight.
And look at these guys. Kaya, you love your pawn structures.
Yes.
What nickname would we have for that?
Ooh.
The totem pole, maybe?
Yeah. Eiffel Tower?
The Eiffel Tower, yeah.
I think the drunk pawns, right? So
Yeah.
I've had that being called. I mean, but that looks...
The wingmen?
The wing...
Got each other's back? Well, not exactly, I guess.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they're not really protecting each other from the side or anything, but they do have each other's backs. And those types of pawns, if that happens, that variation we just showed with the triple pawns, actually, those black pawns, they're not targets immediately, and they do control a lot of squares. Also, black's rook would be opened up. We might see
it on the board, and that would be a first, I think.
We do see it with the triple pawns.
That looks so strange.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, this could seriously I mean, they control a lot of squares, I agree with that, but it could seriously backfire, because it just takes one opening of a line and suddenly it will be doubled pawns that are just weak. And it's all about piece play. And I'm also looking at that very strong central pawn, the pawn on the e5 square, that is protected. Yeah. That is like they have different classes of pawns. I mean, it sounds so snobbish, but it's true. You have the protected pass pawn, that is your best one. And then you have the pass pawn, which is OK. And, OK, well, the knight has moved.
That's a pawn sacrifice from Magnus Carlsen. He's actually allowing one of those triple pawns to get captured. The middle pawn there, white attacking it with its queen, but maybe the white queen would be misplaced if that capture happens. Magnus deciding it's actually impossible to guard those pawns. And note how those three pawns, one of them maybe wants to even retreat itself to kind of guard the others, but triple pawns, they are extremely vulnerable, but they just don't protect each other. So Magnus just deciding to give one of them up, trying to use it as bait to lure Wesley forward.
I think I would take it, would you?
You would or not?
No.
You wouldn't?
No, my knight. I'm going to move my knight to the...
OK.
In front of the king.
So you want to improve the white knight instead. But Wesley, in a must-win situation, just captures that pawn. I would have been very tempted. I mean, it does look like a free pawn on the face of it.
Yes.
It does look like, especially after Magnus's last move, just moving the black queen. Does connect the black rooks, but there's no threats for black. And white just a clear pawn up right now. In compensation for white's extra pawn, black does have a semi-open line with his rook on that F line. Black's rook pretty active. Black's knight now looking much better than it has done the whole game. Maybe the black queen can drop down to the left side of the board later on. That's a solid move by Wesley So, though. I like that one. Just keeping everything defended with his rook, stopping the black knight from jumping in and gaining time. I just think it's a clear pawn for Wesley.
Do you think Wesley has some ambitious ideas of maybe this is just dreaming though, of maybe moving a rook to the corner line, the H line, and delivering checkmate? But I think I'm just dreaming, and my natural move would be simply to move the knight, to develop the knight and to push open a pawn and just explode the position open and enjoy your extra pawn.
Yeah, Wesley, he's done the hard work. I don't know about exploding the position open. I think it's black who should be hoping that the position gets exploded open. I think white, normally in my games at least, when I win a pawn, I know I've done the hard work. It's just consolidation mode. Just improve your pieces to keep everything defended, slow down the pace of the game, if anything, just because the extra pawn, it will count long term. And that's why Magnus is trying to speed up the pace of the game. He's trying to open lines up by pushing his own pawn forward. Magnus doesn't look happy at all with his position right now, but he's doing the right thing at least. He's trying to speed up the pace, trying to hope that Wesley's pieces aren't organised enough if things do open up. Magnus, he's down a pawn on the board. He's down 3-4 minutes on the clock. He doesn't look too happy, but there's still very tense, still a lot of life left in this position.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about Magnus, and also I would say Hikaru Nakamura, is they're very emotional chess players. I mean, I've been reading a lot of books. Yeah, visually, definitely. And they're very expressive and they seem to succumb to their emotions. But I do remember when they measured Magnus's heart rate. It was a real constant, like 105 or something like that.
But I think the reason Magnus and maybe Hikaru as well, they're able to keep their heart rates so stable is because they show their emotions, they get them out quickly, and then they're able to readjust and keep calm after that. They get the emotions out immediately. A lot of the players, myself included, I try to keep a poker face, but inside my emotions are going up and down and all over the place. So maybe sometimes it's just better to get those emotions out rather than bottle them in. And we love to watch Magnus Nakamura. We love to watch all these top players with their emotions, but inside they are ice cold. They are calculating. They're trying to work things out. And Magnus, looks like he's reset now, just trying to figure out how to reply, how to set Wesley some problems in converting his extra pawn. And for now, white does have one passed pawn. You mentioned that E5 pawn, Jovanka. That is long-term going to be a big trump card, but it's not going anywhere soon. So Magnus does have a bit of time to try and create some action, create some confusion for Wesley. Magnus just needs to improve his one remaining piece, that black rook in the top left corner. Once he does, it's not clear how Wesley's going to react. He does play your move, bring the knight to protect the white king. Very safe square.
Yeah, this was my big plan. And it looks a bit strange to line those two rooks up behind a pawn. But the big idea, well, my idea was to simply just to push a pawn forward. So Magnus playing quickly. I think this is a good strategy to put Wesley under pressure because every single one of his moves, they've just been improving moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Wesley reacting quickly as well. Black's rook improved itself, attacking white's queen. Black queen just dropped back to safety. And I don't see a way to improve black's position right now. I don't see any way to create a threat. And as you mentioned, it does look like white's two rooks, they are getting ready to open things up. Okay, Magnus brings his rook to the side. He's going to try and bring that rook down the board to attack white's queen laterally. And suddenly it's...
nice move.
Nice move, yeah. I missed that one. I didn't spot that move. Nice idea by Magnus, just trying to, again, just scare Wesley with some potential threats.
But I mean, the bar is saying 3.3 advantage for Wesley. So is Magnus Carlsen simply fighting to survive this game? Yes. Or can anything still happen?
Well, still anything can happen because just take a look at the king positions. They're not entirely safe, either of them. And you can certainly envisage a situation where Wesley misplays the position and suddenly black has created enough chaos on the board to do something. But this is one of the things with computer assessments. Computer assessments, they're ice cold. They're just calculating everything out, sometimes using brute force. And humans are not like that. Humans have emotions. Humans panic. Humans miscalculate. Nothing is certain when a human sits down to play chess. And you have to remember that.
And we do see Stockfish, the computer suggestions now below the players' cameras. And one move is better than the others, but no matter what white plays here, he does maintain an advantage. White's best move, let's bring up the analysis board to show it. White's best move is actually to just accelerate things. These two white rooks, they're sitting here for a reason. You have to give them a reason to exist, and that is to push forward, open up lines. And this actually just completely ignores black's potential threat. This is what's making Wesley pause. Black bringing the rook down to attack the white queen, but the white queen can now jump up the board again to back where she came from. And suddenly, if things open up along this line, white's rooks are more active than black's. White has two rooks on that line. Black's rook looks great, but actually, even if it takes a pawn, that's just irrelevant. Wesley will open up the position, and suddenly white's rooks are going to be fantastic. We might see a trade of one set of rooks there, but now the black king feels more vulnerable because it has a queen kind of just sitting there looking at it, and black's king not going to feel great if this happens on the board. And
it's not just a white queen, it's soon going to be a white knight and a rook, and so many
White's
possibilities.
knight will jump in,
exactly.
White's rook might jump in later.
Exactly,
yet,
and a pawn as well can come forward. I mean, there's just a whole trio of pieces can just...
And compare it to the white king, which is kept completely safe by its own knight. This is actually, we say never fianchetto your knight, so never put your knight in front of the king like this, but they do keep your king nice and safe. And Wesley, he has found that move, and we're going to see this on the board. We predicted it.
Yep.
The white queen now jumping up, and suddenly Magnus, he's trying to fight. He's trying to get active with this rook, but it's too little too late, perhaps. Suddenly Wesley's opened the position at the right moment. These two rooks are going to become fantastic soon.
All right. It's looking really bad for Magnus Carlsen then. And remember, if Wesley so wins this game, they will be tied before that fourth and final game in the first match. Magnus then with the white pieces.
Yeah, and it would almost be a repeat scenario of what happened in the Skilling Open,
the
final. Yeah, where I think Magnus won and then Wesley struck back and then Magnus won again and Wesley won on demand.
Good memory there. It's a long time since we had the Skilling Open in November. Wow.
I have noticed as well that in the past, in those two finals, that Wesley, we do see rook takes pawn as predicted. In those two finals that Wesley won, both of those, in those finals, Magnus took quick draws with white and was immediately punished. So he keeps taking these draws with white, as he did in the last game, in game 2 of today. And maybe the chess gods, maybe punishing those quick draws. I mean, Wesley's taking them as well, but Magnus, it feels like maybe he could have missed an opportunity to put pressure on in the last game, because if Wesley wins now to equalise the scores, the momentum's with him, the momentum's with Wesley. So okay, after rook takes pawn, white has a decision to make. You can play pawn takes pawn here, open up the lines for the white rooks, as we maybe predicted. There are other tempting options. You could just push that pawn forward one square. That, however, might backfire. Black... Okay.
Wow. Okay,
look at Magnus's face. Magnus surprised by that one.
But David, I mean, isn't there a situation now where black could potentially trap the queen?
Yes, and okay, while Magnus thinks we have to bring this up on the analysis board, because Wesley So has done some serious calculation. He has seen that black can actually trap the white queen by bringing the rook back. White's queen unable to move now, unable to find a safe square, but white can counterattack by pushing his pawn forward. And suddenly, if we do see a trade of queens, that black's rook taking the white queen, white recapturing the black queen, suddenly white is winning because this pawn is unstoppable. It's about to become a new queen. If you try and step in the way of it, then suddenly white's rook would jump up the board, and after a rook trade, a new queen suddenly appears. White would be completely winning. So actually, in the current position, Wesley has set a trap. If black brings the rook back, trying to trap the white queen, then suddenly white is winning. Rook back, white would step forward, and white is completely winning in this position. So really sneaky trap there by Wesley So. In the current position, though, Magnus needs an alternative. If he can't bring his rook back, he needs something else, and maybe the best bet, this is difficult for black, but maybe the best bet is just to sacrifice his knight in the middle of the board.
That's what I would do. I mean, I don't see a good scenario. That pawn, the F pawn advancing, is just so dangerous and is unstoppable. So why not just create the mess on the board, swap off, just sacrifice your knight for a pawn, and fingers crossed, maybe double fingers crossed, I'm inspired by you yesterday. I love that moment. And then just hope for the best.
Yeah, Magnus has to hope for the best now, because it's looking... I mean, the clock situation, the board situation, looking extremely difficult. That last move, black just shuffles his king to the corner. That feels slow. I was about to say white's last move was genius. I thought it was impossible, but Wesley found it. And now Magnus putting his king in the corner of the board. what's to stop Wesley pushing forward? I think Wesley is going to keep pushing his pawns. That F-pawn, as we mentioned, that is going to do the work. White has to push the pawns that are supported by his rook, both of his rooks right now. And yeah, if he pushes that pawn, as he does, the most obvious move, how is Magnus going to defend this? I don't see a way.
With a miracle, David.
Yeah, with a miracle, indeed. We do see a trade of pawns there. There's a big issue in the position. White's about to win a rook. He can check with his queen, giving up his queen temporarily. Magnus just resigns. Black about to lose a rook.
Oh, look how frustrated he is. Magnus Carlsen, he was up by 1 point. If he had won this game, it would be over. He would be the winner of the first match, but he loses it. And that means we have a tie so far in the final between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. What a comeback by Wesley So.
Magnificent game. Absolutely fantastic attacking play. Good opening strategy to put the world champion under pressure from the get-go. And what can I say? Absolutely model. Everyone should be studying this game.
Yes. And, well, David's now going to show us what happened. And this one will be the FTX exchange of today.
We did see Wesley So crown his attack in spectacular fashion. In this position, playing a move that we thought was maybe impossible, pushing his pawn forward. And we did see earlier that Black now could not trap the white queen safely. This move would have been punished as well. We did see Magnus here just put his king in the corner, trying to hide his king safely. And after White continued pressing forward with his pawns, we saw an exchange of pawns in this position. And the killer blow, once Black's queen ran to safety, instead of trading those queens on that square, instead of playing queen takes queen right now, Wesley found the way to exchange queens in a better way, in a more productive way. He went for a check, and this caused Magnus to resign immediately, because if we investigate this trade, we see queen takes queen is met by pawn recaptures with a double attack. Black has to take this pawn, and suddenly the white rooks, they fulfill their purpose. White would just capture the black rook, the two white rooks defending each other perfectly. Wesley, with this queen exchange, won the game.
It's all coming down to that fourth and final game in the first match in the final. They are tied, Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So. Magnus will have the white pieces. And if we have a winner in that final game, that will be the winner of the first match. Before that, Simon Williams, as you know, has made a series on chess engines versus humanity for us. And it's been going all down for the human species so far. And now we're going to show you maybe that final blow when we realized it's all over. Computers are just so much smarter than us. It's Hydra versus Grandmaster Michael Adams.
Hi viewers of the Champions Chess Tour. This one brought to you by FTX, the crypto site for all your crypto needs. And if you were around yesterday, you saw my moment in time. We're talking about obviously computers and their effect on chess and their development in the field of AI, how they overcome and became more powerful than humans in the chess intelligence stake. Is that a sign for humanity? Will computers control us at one point? Obviously, there's been many sci-fi films about that. But if you saw the video yesterday, you saw the last period where really a strong human was able to beat one of the leading computers was around 2005, Ruslan defeating computer. And now in the same year, and there was lots of these hybrid events, humans, man versus machine. It was a big advertising, obviously, coup and good thing to do. There was loads of these around. Well, Mickey Adams, England's strongest ever player, played against Hydra, and Mickey, incredibly good player, and he lost 5.5, which is just completely unheard of with such a strong fighter like Mickey. Mickey Adams is a positional player, never loses, never has lost a score like that. And just to show you a moment where computers really excel is a position we can say here after 28 moves. And this program, Hydra, now unleashed a very strong combination. A combination I think a lot of humans just would not consider, would not see. And it is the move, bishop takes h6. computers love attacking. They spot tactics, hidden tactics, seen tactics. Humans, of course, have to spot sort of the theme before they can calculate a tactic. Computers don't have that issue. They number crunch options, and this move here is really just crushing. In actual fact, Mickey resigned in this position. The point being, if the bishop is taken after queen f3, the queen is just threatening to come and give the black king a kiss of death. Very demoralizing for Mickey, and this really was, I feel, the turning point in history when the computers just overtook humans.
Oh, such a depressing moment in the history for human beings. And we are now joined by the chess engine master, Ginger GM, Simon Williams. Hi, Simon.
Hi there. All right.
All right. So this moment in chess history, I think it was back in 2005. I mean, have we even tried since that to beat the computer, or was it just, okay, now it's over?
I think after that moment, there were some handicap matches. So where the human would even nowadays start to piece up, but the computer even wins those ones. So it never a fair battle after that with the same amount of pieces. It just wasn't worth it. Computers were just so much stronger than their human challengers. So it just didn't happen.
Yeah. No. And, well, I guess Michael Adams is a friend of all of yours, a great, the best English chess player. David's like, oh, yeah, he still is. But, yeah, how did he take it? I mean, is it sort of embarrassing when this happens, or is it just, it's the computer is just unstoppable?
I think at the time it must have been quite painful. I mean, there's certainly nothing to be embarrassed about because, it was proven just how strong these computers are. But for Mickey, his nickname, Mickey Adams, he just never lost a match like that. He was incredibly strong. He nearly won the FIDE World Cup. He was pretty much unbeatable against other humans. He had such a solid style, and he would never lose a match 5.5 So it must have been a real shock for him. It was certainly a shock for everyone watching. I think a lot of people just thought such a solid player, someone who doesn't really take risks, will do quite well against the computer, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, Jovanka, do you remember your reaction when this happened?
Yeah, I mean, just primarily because of the score, 5.5, half in the computer's favour. We didn't really expect that. Of course, we'd seen Garry Kasparov lose to Deep Thought, and then that was the human brain's last stand and everything. But just for a computer just to wipe the floor with someone as amazing as Mickey was just unheard of. I remember the shock there.
Simon, what would your approach be if you were to face a computer these days? Maybe with a piece on?
I don't know, cry. I just unplug it, something like that, maybe. So throw my beer over its screen, anything like this. I don't know. I mean, you just can't. I've done some of these challenge matches myself where I've been a couple of pawns up, and you just have to. You have to sort of just avoid open positions. So in chess, there are certain types of positions, and open positions where there's lots of open lines, open diagonals, and in those positions tactics are much more likely to occur. When you're playing against a computer, you want to try to keep it closed and keep it sort of contained, but even nowadays that tactic just doesn't really work. So I don't know, David, really it's a lost cause.
Tough question, sorry.
I have to agree with you there, Simon. I mean, I've tried training with it in the most boring position where only maybe one side, the human, has the advantage, and still it just wipes the floor with me.
Well, and Simon, tomorrow it's going to be about like a new chapter for chess engines, the Alpha 0. I mean, how much has happened for these chess engines even since 2005 when this match happened?
Well, again, I think it just reflects computers and society, really. As we're saying throughout this, these videos we've been showing, and Alpha 0 was really a real revolutionary thing, just the way it was thinking, basically, in the way it fought. Up to this point, really, computers have been programmed by humans, so they sort of followed the humans' rules. But AlphaZero came along, and it kind of made up its own rules. So even more scary, you know, that whole idea: can computers have emotions? Is starting to crawl into you know, the sphere of intelligence and AI.
All right, that's coming up tomorrow, the final episode in the series on chess engines. Looking forward to that. But now, Simon, the final between Magnus and Wesley, this final game by Wesley, he's playing like Hydra, fantastic chess. What do you feel about it so far after 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, he does play like a computer sometimes. I mean, he needs to win, and he just turns on the button. It's like, I don't mean that like, you know, he doesn't turn on the computer next to him. Just want to clarify that. Let's hope not. Of course he doesn't. But he plays like on demand with the white pieces. A brilliant game there. How many people can do this against Magnus? You know, no one really. And Wesley's doing this time and time again. And I think somehow he's got some psychological pull over Magnus at the moment, which Magnus needs to, you know, break out of. And he's got white in this last game, so maybe this is an opportunity for Magnus today to at least stamp his world championship class on the game.
Yeah. He seems to be great, Magnus, at making comebacks after losses, just using maybe that anger. Do you expect some great stuff from Magnus now in the next game with the white pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to push again. I mean, I loved his game a couple of rounds ago where he just threw his H-pawn up the board. That was very AlphaZero-like, actually. AlphaZero brought this idea of play into, well, to humans, really, which was quite impressive. Using the
using that idea for years.
Yeah, just call me Alpha Ginger. It's all right. So I'm just a poor man's AlphaZero. But it's, yeah, I mean, I love using the wing pawns, but, you know, it did become very popular after the stronger computers were using it. And I even saw Hikaru the other day briefly talking about this, and someone asked him, you know, why do players now use their H-pawns? And he said, well, I'm not really sure, but we do because the computers do it, so it must be good. Even if we don't understand why it's good, strong players are doing it now. So that was quite eye-opening, actually.
Yeah. All right. It's getting close to that final game. And Simon, we are talking about reruns today because, of course, this is the 3rd time we're seeing this final in the tour. So, yeah, Jovanka, should we challenge him in the quiz of the day?
Definitely. Simon, our quiz of the day is, if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be?
Chess history or just any kind of history?
Any history.
Oh, any history. Okay. I'd probably like to go back to Woodstock and see Jimi Hendrix in the 60s or something like that. That would be pretty cool. Or maybe the Doors. So yeah, I think something like that would be good. If it was chess history, maybe when I managed to fluke a stalemate against you, Jovanka, at the British Chess Championships.
That cost me my I am norm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't do that, really. No.
I would actually love to go back because I remember you guys mentioned something about a English bus championship, playing some chess on top of a bus.
That was David and me, yeah.
I want to go back to see that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I have a picture somewhere of us.
We can make it happen again sometime.
Yeah. Well, Simon, you mentioned the concerts. Are you looking forward to the world opening up, going back to concerts and festivals and having so much fun?
Yeah, definitely. Just sitting in a pub garden is like a bit of luxury, you know. So I'm very much just looking forward to restaurants opening and just everything, getting some normality back, and being able to play chess against another human again will be face to face. Will be amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. Good times ahead.
I agree. All right. Well, the final game of today is coming up. So Simon, thank you for joining us today. Look forward to see you again tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Thanks. All right. Well, he did answer it, the question of today, and maybe we have some nice ones from the viewers as well.
Yeah, we do have some nice ones. Of course, just a reminder, we're asking if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? And GS says, watching Carlsen finals, but if I could relive a moment in history, that would probably be the time when Bitcoin still costs less than $1, and I should have bought a bag of it. That would have been very, very wise if we'd known, definitely. And Found Now Jam Luangamba says that I would love to go back to 600 AD when chess was invented for the first time and thank them from our behalf and pat them. Well done. It would also be quite interesting because it will solve the age-old debate. Was it India? Was it China? Was it Japan? So definitely.
Cool answers. And now we're following the rerun of the final between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. It's the third time they're facing each other in the final in the tour, and the final game of today is coming up. They are tied after 3 games in the first match. If we have a winner, as you see, in this final game, that will be the winner of day 1. If there's a draw, then the first one will be tied. So, yeah, David, final expectations. What do you think of this one?
Magnus, he's going to be angry after that last defeat. He's going to press as hard as he can in this last game to try and win today's match.
What do you think of Wesley in this game, Jovanka? Just, as always, super solid?
Yeah, he has to erect that wall and just simply not let Magnus shake him down, because that's what Magnus is going to do. I agree with David. I think Magnus is definitely going to be angry. He wants revenge, and it's all going to be a bitter fight to the end. Well, we'll see.
Well, how difficult is it, David, to defend against Magnus when he's playing angry chess?
Yeah, I've played him a few times in blitz chess, and occasionally, very rarely, I get a win. Suddenly, it's beast mode from him, and he'll make sure that one win is a flash in the pan, that it doesn't happen again for a long time. He is probably the best player in the world when it comes to bouncing back from defeats.
Yeah, but that must be so hard, like on demand almost, to get a win.
Yeah, but Magnus is just superb at this. I mean, if this is his superhero talent, that would be it. You know, Magnus can bounce back. You know, I've seen him lose 2 games in a row, but that didn't matter. He went on to just motor through and just keep accumulating the points, you know. But I'm really interested, actually, now with their history, exactly how Magnus will approach this final game. Because, I don't know, I think it's going to be just a really fun game to watch.
He's ready, Magnus Carlsen, and we rarely talk about opening preparations when we talk about Magnus. It's just so much about all the other stuff, his fantastic intuition and so on. But does he have like a bag of some magic openings he can use in situations like this?
Yeah, his bag of opening tricks. It's like Mary Poppins' bag. There's full of them.
Yeah.
He could do anything in the opening. And okay, he did opens with his king's pawn this time. Wesley So defending against the Spanish opening. White's bishop coming out to put some pressure on Black's knight. We saw this 2 games ago. Okay, Magnus repeating that strategy, which only brought him a draw last time. Magnus repeating exactly the same opening moves. The knights have come off. We do see a complete repeat of the game from earlier on today. Rooks are about to leave the board as well. White's bishop coming out. Okay, I'm shocked. We said, Magnus, he's going to be angry after that last defeat, but he's repeated exactly the same moves that have led to a draw 2 games ago. We're still repeating the exact same game so far, no differences yet, and lots of pieces have been hoovered off already. Bishops, knights, rooks have been hoovered off.
Yeah, and
completely symmetrical pawn structure.
And this has been used before by Magnus just to secure the draw. I mean,
this won't go on more than 1 more minute.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's banking everything.
Exactly the same game as 2 rounds ago.
Yes.
And we're about to see...
That surprises me so much when it's Magnus Carlsen.
He just threw away his 2 whites, just said, draw. And there we go. The position repeats itself and game over.
Wow. What a shock.
Yeah, I mean...
Disappointing, right?
Terribly disappointing. I mean, this is a golden opportunity for Magnus to put Wesley under pressure on the board, but also psychologically, and just to say, hey, if you want to draw with me, you show me how you're going to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, we can just see Magnus logging off there, but surprising. But, you know, we actually have seen Magnus take an approach like that before. I do remember in the last match against Sergei Karyakin in the World Championship, he agreed a quick draw, and I remember thinking at the time, wow, what is he doing? That's so risky. And then, of course, he stamped his authority in the tie breaks. But
he's done this exact strategy before against Wesley So, and it didn't work out in a final. I remember he lost in blitz in the blitz tiebreaks once before after forcing this exact same draw with White. So he's not necessarily a big favourite against Wesley So in the blitz. So Magnus, he does play the odds. It's all about the result for him. but it feels like he's really playing with fire. He's banking everything on those blitz games, and if he's banking everything on those blitz games, he's putting a lot of pressure on himself.
All right, we are now joined by Magnus Carlsen. The first match in the final is tied, and Magnus, I have to tell you, we're very surprised about your tactics in this final game. A draw here. What was that all about?
I felt like shit, and I didn't want to play.
Okay, what do you mean by felt like shit? Your form?
Yeah, I was just I don't feel good today. Hopefully, I'll feel better tomorrow.
All right, so banking everything on tomorrow, then...
No, it's not about banking everything on tomorrow. It's just that I think if you don't feel well, you should listen to your body.
Absolutely.
And Magnus, if you're still not feeling great tomorrow, will you continue with the same strategy? Will you try to force yourself out of this funk somehow?
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be better.
But if I can ask you just one question then about the game that you won, because that was quite spectacular. How did you feel about that?
No, I mean, I think I reacted kind of poorly to his idea in the opening, and then I don't know, he went wrong at some point, and I got a bit lucky. So I'm overall not dissatisfied with the overall result. Obviously, it's a pity to play as poorly as I did in the third game, but it happens. So overall, I should be relatively satisfied with the draw.
All right, and well, with not feeling well today, and also with the history against Wesley in the finals, how do you sort of see your chances of now winning the FTX Crypto Cup?
No, it depends on tomorrow. If I feel okay tomorrow, I have every chance of winning.
All right. Well, Magnus, definitely we wish you some good rest and hope you're feeling better tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess that answers our questions on why this happened.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it happens. You don't feel very well, and sometimes you have to bail out. What's surprising? I mean, we didn't expect it at all. But okay, Magnus just gave us the very honest reason. And we hope that he feels better tomorrow.
Oh, definitely. Hopefully some sickness won't destroy this final. And we're also joined by Wesley. So, how are you feeling after tying the match today?
Yeah, no, I heard the interview. Well, I hope Magnus will feel better on Tuesday.
Yeah. But how do you feel about your own play? I mean, definitely that third game making that huge comeback.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I mean, the first game was very unfortunate, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the first game, I think I surprised him in the opening, but then I moved the wrong knight to the corner first. Like, I should play knight h4 first before knight a4, I think. But then somehow I played knight a4 first and then knight h4, and then he found f6, which is really good. And around move 26, I think I should just try to play for a draw by playing bishop d6 and trading off the knights. But I was feeling a bit ambitious, and I just totally underestimated his attack, and I forgot that he can mate me on the last two files with this knight takes g3. Like, I totally missed that a few moves ago.
So you mentioned...
Yeah, it was a blunder.
So you mentioned, Wesley, you think this was the moment you made a mistake before Magnus got the attack?
Yeah, on move 26, I mean, I think only black could be slightly better looking at it now, but I was feeling ambitious during the game. So I should play bishop d6. Like, queen b4 and queen c5 was just a very mistaken plan.
All right. Well, Wesley, you did choose this opening again, right? In game 3. So what was that about? Is this an opening that you're feeling that very confident about and that you have some great ideas in that we obviously did see?
Yeah, the problem is that I knew coming in from the last two matches with Magnus that he will play this e5 knight c6 and very solid. Like, he'll play the same solid stuff against any opening. Like against d4, he probably has some Queen's Gambit. And I figured it's better to have bad preparation than no preparation at all. But I mean, objectively, the lines I played with white today is harmless. And black has multiple ways of equalizing. But my preparation before the game, I was thinking whether I should play another opening. But then Magnus' repertoire is very broad with black against other moves. So I figured little preparation is better than no preparation. Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad to win the third game. He blundered with knight a5, after which there was just no way out. But yeah, it's confusing that he doesn't want to fight with the white pieces, but of course I'll take it. But I mean, he very nearly won today's match, of course. All he needed to do was hold game 3.
So Wesley, yet again, you managed to win on demand. So tell us, what is your secret? Is it those apples?
Ooh, yes.
And good. Well, just taking the chances my opponents give me. Actually, I heard Magnus' interview where he said he doesn't feel well. I'm actually also not sleeping well. Like, this tournament has a lot of stake, and winning it guarantees a spot in the final. So I'm actually very nervous also the last few nights. So I think last night I only slept 6 hours. But yeah, I'll tell you a story. So we're leaving for Romania, Grand Chess Tour on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So my mother is packing already, my sister. So we have all our suitcases up here, and the cats see the suitcase. And whenever they see the suitcase, yeah, they know that we're about to leave, and they don't ever want us to leave.
Oh.
So they start yowling and meowing all night long. It's very hard to sleep.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that's very hard, Wesley.
And yeah, what?
Yeah, I feel sharp today, but I'm just not getting enough sleep. But hopefully tonight I can sleep much better.
And Wesley, now that it is just a one-day shootout for first place, what will your strategy be tomorrow if we leave opening preparation aside? Do you have a specific way that you'll approach it?
Strategy tomorrow? Well, just try to avoid blunders like I did on game 1. Try to avoid blunders. That's the most important thing. And try to do well in the opening. But we'll see what happens. I think right now I'm pretty happy if we go into a tiebreak with 2-2. I mean, it seems like Nepo and Tamor are also heading that way. So I think if we get to this, I'll be pretty happy because it'll be anybody's game. But yeah, I'm just hoping to play well and avoid blunders. I mean, hopefully Magnus is not on his best tomorrow. But, I mean, I hope he feels better on Tuesday, but not tomorrow.
You're allowed to feel that way, definitely, of course.
Yeah, I mean, game 1 today, he played magnificently. He played like a machine. But of course, I'm helped by the fact that he took quick draws with white.
All right. Well, Wesley, good luck on the final day tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give my best. Hopefully, put up a entertaining fight.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Hopefully. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, I think that was 2 very interesting talks to have with both Magnus and Wesley. What do you take out of what Wesley is saying here? He seems confident.
Yeah, I think Wesley is quietly confident. That's always the impression that I get. That he's very humble.
Yeah.
But underneath there is this determination to win, and he did play a great game in game 3.
Yeah.
What can I say? That was just a model of perfection, and hats off to him because he did it on demand. It's not easy to do.
And well, for Magnus, David, it's not good news to hear that he's feeling sick.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as chess fans, we want to see two players at the peak of their powers, bang in form, fighting it out. But yeah, I mean, we just got to hope that Magnus comes back tomorrow feeling more of himself. Wesley seemed to be boosted. He said he was listening to that interview. He seemed more confident knowing that Magnus wasn't at 100%. It was refreshing to see his honesty, though. Magnus admitting that surely tonight he'll try and get an early night. He'll try and do a little bit of chess preparation and come back refreshed tomorrow. It is just coming down to one day, so anything could still happen. Even Magnus at his best is still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, so much excitement coming up for us because the final will now be decided on one day. They tied the first one. Let's take a look at the results after the first match in the finals. Magnus with a spectacular win in the first game, but Wesley, so with that same opening, made a comeback in game 3. Both of Magnus's white games, quite quick draws, so the match is tied, and so is the match for third place between Radjabov and Nepomniachtchi. They played 4 very quick draws, so that too will be decided tomorrow. And I mean, tiebreaks must be coming up tomorrow, David.
It's likely that at least in one of the matches we'll see tiebreaks. It's looking very likely for the Radjabov and Nepomniachtchi match. Blitz games, they're always exciting, right? But yeah. Who knows what the players have in store? They might shock us with so many decisive games.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be entertaining. Now, this final between Carlsen and so it is a rerun. We had that twice previously in the tour, so it's the third time we're seeing it. So that's why we're talking about reruns today.
Yeah, we are asking if you could relive a moment in history, what would it be? Now, before I announce the lucky winner of our Air Things Wave Mini, showed up nicely, we'd like to mention a few entries that we especially liked. We liked Manish, who said that I would love to go back to 600 AD when chess, then called Chaturanga, was invented and watch kings playing the game. We also liked M. Schmickler, who says I would love to relive the match between AlphaZero and Lee Sedol. And in 2016, it was a milestone in AI research, and AlphaZero became the foundation of one of the strongest chess engines in the world, which changed chess ever since. And there you can see the human against the AlphaGo. And then we also liked Gerald Backman, who said October 23rd, 1918. Round 1, Marshall Chess Club Masters. Frank Marshall springs his Marshall attack on Jose Raul Capablanca. Would have loved to be there. But the lucky winner of the Air Things mini device, that goes to Radek Novotny, who says that I would relive a day playing first-time chess with my son. So I so enjoyed his out-of-the-box thinking by double-decking his bricks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is great when children learn the game of chess and they come up with all sorts of explanations and strategies. It's just beautiful. So congratulations, Radek. You are the lucky winner of our Air Things Mini.
So cute. All right. Well, we are looking forward to the final day of the FTX Crypto Cup coming up tomorrow. And another thing that I'm really looking forward to tomorrow is showing you the next challenge that we have given David. And for this one, maybe he's more on home turf. It's all about chess. But actually, I think maybe you've never had a more challenging challenge. Take a look at this.
Knight G to E2.
Board 1. Pawn takes c4.
Queen takes c4.
Knight to f8.
Wow, a blindfold simultaneous chess against 3 players at the same time. Wow, that must be so hard.
It was difficult. I had to go back and sleep for a whole day afterwards. It was that exhausting, that training, and they were strong players. They put up a real fight, yeah. I had to practice a lot in advance of that one.
Yeah. I mean, how hard is it, like a blindfold chess?
It's super hard. I mean, you have to use your full concentration, and you also have to use all sorts of memory tricks. You know, you can't just play the moves. You have to kind of associate the person with the board, and yeah, difficult stuff. So well done to David for challenging 3. Was it 3 or 4?
3.
3 players.
Yeah. And, well, will he be able to win all of the 3 games, or will he lose one of them? That is coming up tomorrow, our challenge for Mr. David Howell and also, of course, the final day of the final in the FTX Crypto Cup. This is a major. The winner will qualify directly for the tour final. Definitely both Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen really, really wants to win this one. It's all going to be decided tomorrow. What an exciting day. Hope you'll be with us. Bye.